and it's day one and you walking in there on the first day, man, you in there, man. But you feel something. It's right in here, man. And it's screaming, and it's yelling, and it's saying, release me. And it's saying, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. Hey, y'all, when you get back, kick some butt, and I'll see you in the winner's circle celebrating your victory. Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! You got this! You got this! You got this! Thank everybody.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 213 of the AP and New Principles Academy. Let me see who's checking in this morning. We got Sharon Wright in the building. Mona Obermolak is here. She says good morning to myself and the Queen. That's Sharon and Mona both do the same. Takesha High is in the building. Dr. Rachel Edo Eckett is in the building. That's next week's guest. We'll talk more about that. Grace Castaneda, Rodney from Kyle, Texas. I should say, well, I'll start saying the areas. Rodney Richardson's down there in Hampton. Virginia Solomon Bazue Jr. is in the building. Constance Sherrod, Pearl, Mississippi. Yolanda McKinney is in Arkansas. Sheikah Houston, that's Dr. Sheikah Houston, half of Create and Educate with Dr. Tammy Taylor. They're in South Carolina, Chester. Dr. Rella Hicks, and that's 10:30 if I didn't say that. Following Sean Hurt at 10 o'clock. That's both on Facebook Live. Dr. Rella Hicks is in the building. Rashard Davis, Las Vegas, Nevada. Tashika Truesdale is in the building. John Herricks. Summer Williams with Sandra Brackens. Ronald Pugh is in the building. Michael Benton, MPA Jaguar. That's Josh Tovar. I don't know. Sheikah was saying something about, I don't even remember what the language was now. But yeah, we'll talk about how we're going to do that, team. Because what was it? Something Sunday. I don't know. Because I never heard it before. So we'll get to it. Michael Benton, I see you in Cincinnati. Jacqueline Harris in Nova Scotia. There's the other half of Create and Educate. Dr. Principal Tammy Taylor. Are you in El Paso? I see you, Josh. Dina Freeman is in the building out there in New York City. We got Alphine Bradley in the building. Central Hicks, Central Texas. The Queen of the Castle is in the building. That's Kimberly Broughton Kafele. We got Josh said he's on fire. Yeah, I'm on fire too, Josh. But you know, I still haven't called Apple, so we ain't going to express it the way that I need to, right, when I get to it. Melissa Jones Chuno is in the building out there in Oklahoma. Aaliyah Rashawn is in the building. There's Sean Hurt, Principal Sean Hurt, Turnaround Principal, 10 o'clock. Always bringing that information on Facebook Live at 10 o'clock a.m. Golfar WT is in the building down in the ATL Atlanta. We got Charlena Hottie in Norfolk. Carla Beek is in the building out in Katy, Texas. Man, I was supposed to come to Katy the past 2 years, but Texas, man, they got this thing with these bids. It's like they want you to do like 50 pages for a half day, 1 hour keynote, whatever it is. And I'm like, I'd be telling all them Texas districts, yeah, y'all find somebody else. I ain't got the time nor patience to be filling out a 50-page bid for 4 hours of presenting, right? Or 6 hours of presenting or a keynote address. It's just too much, man. So if they want me bad enough, they figure out another route and they get me in there. But Katie didn't figure that route out, right? So Doc McKeever Jeter is in the building. Arlette Johnson's in the building. That's Arlette, man. She's the 2023 Connecticut AP Principal of the Year, but I got to congratulate her right now. She is now the interim principal at a school in Connecticut. I don't know the school, but I don't have the name of the school, but she's interim principal. That's Arlette Johnson. Congratulations, salute. Give her a round of applause, man. Give her those emojis to let her know she's family. She's family all the way back to the beginning. Had a chance to meet her family, all that stuff, man. So Arlette Johnson, congratulations to you, and we're gonna be supporting you and rooting for you as you prepare over the summer and launch the new school year in September. We got Dr. Demetrius Scott, same thing. He's going to be launching his first year. So we applauded him, but y'all feel free to applaud him again. September, Devon Vance Daniels is in the building. Sherrod Laws. Sherrod, I heard Sheikah say something about your mom. So prayers to her. I wasn't familiar. I haven't been on social media heavy this week because, well, for the past month, because y'all not been typing, you know, we're getting this book ready. We got Valerie Macy in the building. We got Marsha Poe down out there in San Diego. Where we at? I'm getting ready to shut it down, y'all, so we can get started. We got a good conversation coming. Aaliyah Rashawn in Dallas, Texas is in the building. Mary Baptiste, Francis, Baru is in the building out in she said Francis from Normal, formerly Chicago. There you go. Where we at? I'm looking for somebody from Jersey to close us out. I don't see Jersey yet. I see Jeff Miller down there in Milner down there in Virginia. I see Haley, my milking sister, down and out, and Haley Elaine Couch down and out in Oklahoma. Stacey L. Joy out there in California and LA, I think. Where we at? Brandy, Prince Willis. And I'm getting ready to close it. I see Tanya Perry was our guest not too long ago. Check that video out if you didn't see it, man. Powerful conversation on equity. Where we at? Akima Dawson is in El Paso. Where's the Jersey homie, man? I'm looking to close this out with Jersey, man. Where's the Jersey homie? I don't see no Jersey homies, man. Some of y'all from Jersey, and I don't even realize you from Jersey. I'm talking about the ones I really know. Where we at? I don't see you. I see Staten Island real quick, so that's close. Staten Island's just a stone's throw. If I had a stone in my hand, I could throw it like this, and it's going to hit Staten Island. That's how close I am to Staten Island. So Sue Out is in Staten Island. So I'm going to close it with Sue Out by saying formally now to everybody, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 213 of the AP and New Principles Academy. Hey, y'all, you know, this is like my time right here, right? When I let you know how I feel. But you know, like, I guess it's been a month now, right, since I put this new operating system on my Apple computer, and it has done something to the mic when I'm loud, right? I mean, I could be loud like this. It's not gonna be an issue. But when I let you know about my fire, oh man, it just mutes me out. So I you know, because of the brand of the beginning, I'm still going to do it, but y'all ain't going to hear me when I get to that fire, but you'll see me, right? So I'm going to let you know, and the reason I do this for the newbies on here now is because despite the challenges of the world, the challenges in our lives, the challenges that we just deal with on a regular basis, at the end of the day, we chose leadership. So within that leadership, yes, we've got to take care of ourselves mentally and emotionally, if not physically. But at the proverbial end of the day, I'm still going to bring those flames. So I want you to know that I'm on fire! Woo! Yeah, baby. That's how I feel, man. That's how I feel. And my hope is that despite whatever your challenges were this week, that in this moment, you got that fire too, man. I happen to know definitively that some of you that watch, that view, that are the fam, come here to get the fire. I know that because of the countless people who have told me that. That's a good thing. right? The week is long, but I know I could count on that AP in New Principles Academy. I know I can count on Principal Kafele to bring them flames, to get me started for the next week. And that's my vow. That's part of why I wake up and do this platform every week, man. Right? So let's go, y'all. I got a couple things here, man. It's I want to say that I don't have any shout outs as far as places I've spoken, because the only place I've been this week is at this table. You know, I posted, for those that saw the post, I said I finished that book in 18 days. What is my value to the teachers that I supervise instructionally? It was 40,000 words. But I told you then I got to do the refining and the revising and the editing. And then doing the refining, it went up to 45,000 words, right? So that's all right. For a book that was supposed to be a thin 25,000 word book. But I had a lot to say on this topic of what is my value to the teachers that I supervise instructionally. In other words, on instructional leadership. So, and I'm still refining. I'm going to Aruba tomorrow. Guess what I'm taking with me? That manuscript, man. Every morning, 4 hours when I wake up, that's what I'm going to be doing, right? And then ultimately, we're going to send it to ASCD, my publisher, and it's looking to be released in December. So y'all mark that on your calendar. The new joint coming out in December. It'll be ready for pre-order in September. That's the timeline. Right. So what is my value to the teachers I supervise instructionally? Secondly, man, I got to shout out Nicole Turner. That was our guest last week, instructional coach Nicole Turner. Man, we got 12,000 views on that one, man, between the live and the recording. 12,000? Man, y'all must have been calling everybody. Right. So I appreciate everybody that shared it, that tagged somebody, that reposted, retweeted, all these different words, whatever one you did, whatever verb is yours. I appreciate you doing it, right? That's 12,000 views that's like half of a basketball arena, right? So I appreciate you. Small arena, that's the whole arena sold out, right? So I appreciate that. Our first timers, welcome. But if this is your first time, that means you missed 212 sessions. So go to the AP and New Principles Academy YouTube channel. Subscribe. Let me say that word again. Subscribe. Let me say it one more time. Subscribe to the channel, and then you can watch them all. That's a lot of hours though, because most of these sessions are 90 minutes all of them between 90 minutes to 2 hours. But that's good. Where you gonna get this kind of content, man, for free, right? With all those sessions, including my guest who's making his second appearance here, right? So which we're gonna get to him in a minute. So make sure you subscribe to the AP New Principles Academy YouTube channel. Hey, y'all, join me in Texas, Houston, Texas, for the School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele. That'll be July 9 and 10. Once again, July 9 and 10. Join me in Houston. 2 days, 2 big days, 2 full days. We're just gonna be talking leadership, man. That's what we do. We talking leadership. So come and join us. We're gonna have a good time, man. The topic: what is my value to the teachers that I supervise instructionally? Right? That's going to be the topic for 2 days. I need 5 days. That's how much content I got. But we'll get a lot in 2 days. So if you haven't registered, go to principalkafele.com, scroll down to the announcements, click the link, register, and I want to see your face in the place. Then the next week, come on back to Houston for the Black Educators Rock Conference. Man, it's going to be a little bit of everybody down there. So you want to make sure you're there. I do the full day leadership summit on Sunday, the last day, the 21st, but I'll be there the 20th and the 21st, but the conference is from the 18th to the 21st. Come on down there. rockconference.org is how you register. Again, rockconference.org. Next, I gotta show you the leadership books every week. The Assistant Principal 50. The Assistant Principal Identity. You see the new joint sitting behind me. Get your hands on it if you don't have it already. The Principal 50. Is my school a better school because I lead it? And the Aspiring Principal 50. These are the books that accompany this platform. Of course, I got my teacher books, but they don't accompany the platform. Those are the ones that do. Go to Amazon, get them all. If you don't have them, get them all, get them all, get them all. And then be sure to like and follow the AP and New Principles Academy Facebook page. I know I haven't been keeping up with my writing. Y'all know I got to take it down at some point. No Sunday mornings. The last thing I feel like doing is writing that essay, but I know I made a commitment. So I'm going to get back to it. We got like about 120 of them, I think. So if you haven't read them, go to the page and scroll and read the ones you haven't read. AP and New Principles Academy Facebook page. That's it. Let me go to my monologue real quick, and then I'm going to be done. Today is May 25th. 2020. Does that date mean anything to anybody out there? May 25th, 2020. Like the other day was May 19th, 2000. I said 20. We'll get to 20. Today is May 9th, is May 25th, 2024. But the day in my mind is May 25, 2020. Right. So does that day, May 25th, 2020. And as I was alluding to, May 19th, 2024 marked the 99th birthday of Minister El Hajj Malik El Shabazz Omawali Malcolm X, right? So I don't know if I talked about that here or not, so I'll just bring it up right now. But today, May 25th, 2024 is the 4th anniversary of the 9-minute and 29-second murder by a Minneapolis police officer in Minneapolis of George Floyd, right? So I don't want to do this session without recognizing George Floyd and recognizing the circumstances around his death, right? He didn't pass, right? He didn't expire. He didn't transition due to sickness and disease. He was murdered by a police officer, Minneapolis, over a span of 9 minutes and 29 seconds through the use of the officer's knee. I don't want to forget that. It's as important as this platform is. I'm not, you all know me. If you're new to this and new to me, you don't know me. But if you're a veteran, if you know my work, you know I'm not one that's going to run away from tough topics. You know that. You know I'm not going to be one to say, I might jeopardize my business. Nah, we got to put it out there. And if the clients can't deal with that, because I mean, if I come in there and I don't talk about these kinds of things, then I'm not bringing my authenticity. So I have to talk about that. We're not going to get into a lecture about George Floyd, but I just want to recognize that this is the day 4 years ago. But, as it relates to my work, as it relates to your work, there are 3 things I want to highlight here. I noticed something in education that I didn't necessarily notice prior to May 25th, 2020. This intensity of attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, it was going on before George Floyd, but it's like post George Floyd, in the midst of all the demonstrations, the marches, the rallies, the outrage, etc. It's like I saw this intensity of the attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. And we're still in that space right now. We're here, right? So you got places where it's being outlawed, places where it's being banned, places where it's being discouraged, places where folks are afraid to even mention the 3 words or the 3 initials, right? Or places where they'll tell me, don't even mention it here, right? Like we can't do that, right? So, but I saw it evolving out of the 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Like before that wasn't a part of my conversation. But right after that, when as I continue to do this work virtually and then back in person, then it's like, Kafele, don't could you not, we can't deal with diversity, we can't deal with equity, right? Like, huh? What? Well, why not? Right? And to this day, I haven't had a client give me a response that made sense, right? It's always something wrapped up in politics, right? But in terms of it having any educational value, I haven't had anybody respond to me in a way that it just made sense. Like explain to me why equity is not at the core, the center of what you do. rooted in its definition, meeting the children where they are. Not up here if they're not there, not down there if they're not there, not here if this is not where I am, but I'm here, or not here because this is not where I am, I'm here. In an equity conversation, we gonna meet them right there where they are, but as they are. Meet me where I am as I am. Don't pretend I'm something other than what I am. If you're gonna take me to the next level, you got to meet me where I am, teacher. You got to meet me where I am, principal. You got to meet me where I am, superintendent. Because if you want to pretend I'm up here, but I'm nowhere near there, you're not gonna meet me because I can't compete at that level yet. Your role is to build me to that level. How are we gonna get on here and say to Kafele, oh, we can't talk equity? Huh? So in other words, your system is designed to fail young people. That what you're saying to me? But see, all this, it emanated in terms of the intensity out of that 9 minutes and 29 seconds, man. So that's number one. But then I saw this intensity of book bans, like banning books. Huh? Ban a book? Particularly a book that's speaking truth? See, some of us don't want to deal with the truth of history. Let me say that differently. Some of us don't want to deal with the truth of American history, right? So when those American history truths come out, then people want to ban them. Ooh, we can't let the people know about that. I know, I know definitively that there's certain places that I'll never get into as a presenter. I know that. Because there's fear of what I might say or fear of what I represent because people see me on this platform and they probably make decisions. And this monologue, I tend to get loose. So now, but I'm not saying anything when it comes to history that's not documented. When I said last week in the monologue of Brown versus Board of Education, when I reference, we always talk about the 25,000 teachers that ultimately lost their jobs as a result of Brown, but we don't typically talk about the 100,000 when you include the principals and other levels of educators. We don't, when we start talking about beyond the classroom teacher, then we're talking 100,000. And when we go beyond the 50s and go from 52 to the 70s, then we're talking 100,000 plus employees that were either fired, terminated, demoted, right? As a result of Brown versus the Board of Education. So the intensity of book banning, well, a lot of those truths are in those books that you're finding different school districts banning. Can't ban no books, man. Just like diversity matters, so does diversity of thought. And particularly when that diversity of thought is rooted in some level of research, some level of evidence. And in the third one, I found a heightened aggressiveness toward the marginalization of the history of Black people in America relative to curriculum, which is essentially what I just said, right? So when we talk about Florida, for example, and the whole the whole outrage around the African American studies curriculum, right? It's not confined to Florida. Florida's just the one that got the camera on it, right? But how do we question that? It's American history. That's what it is. Black history is American history. It's just the aspect of Black history that involves Black people. But if it happened in America, it's American history. So here's the argument. I probably shouldn't get into this part because I'm gonna get into it with my guests. But here's the argument. Well, we don't want to offend anybody. All right. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. Pump the brakes. If we're going to be truthful and honest about history, and in this case, American history, the history itself is going to upset people. The history itself is going to make people feel uncomfortable. In this case, we're talking about children and teachers. There's going to be discomfort in the classroom, but that discomfort can be a teachable moment. We can turn that into a win. But yeah, there are going to be young people that feel offended because we're being truthful about the past. How do we understand 2024 if we don't know 1824? You can't make sense out of 2024 if you don't know 1924, if you don't know 1824, if you don't know 1724, if you don't know 1624. None of this will make sense. Nothing about 2024 will make sense if you don't understand 1924, if you don't understand 1824, if you don't understand 1724, if you don't understand 1624. It's a continuum. These are not isolated centuries. These are not isolated decades. These are not isolated years. It's like one common thread. And you can't take the thread and snap it into two and then have a space in between and you want to toss that in the trash. No, you got to keep that thread together and teach and teach and teach and teach and teach until you get to the current time. And then based on the current time, we can forecast the future decades, the future centuries, based on evidence. Enough said. I see one of my former teachers here, Miss Maylock, Khadijah Maylock. She probably said, that sound like the Kafele I know, right? So good to see you, Miss Maylock, superstar teacher on my staff at North Tech. Hey, y'all. So that's my commentary. Hit that share button, hit that retweet, hit that repost. Let them know we here. But you know something? I got Rick Wormeli on the platform today. My monologue is just the start. We getting ready to get down on this topic. A black educator, a white educator, talk race in the school and in the classroom. Hit that share button, hit that retweet button. Let them know we are here. I'm getting ready to bring my guest up here. I'm just getting this screen right, man. I'm getting my screen right. We getting it right. Here we go. Yes, sir. There you go. Hey, Rick, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. It's a pleasure to be in your company once again.
It's a pleasure to be in your company as well. And it's a pleasure to have you on this platform, week number 213. Last time you were here.
Wow, you're old.
I'm old, man. I'm 63.
So am I. We're the exact same age.
No, we the same age. Todd Whitaker is like right about a year ahead of us.
Yeah, but we're showing him how it's done.
Yeah.
And he would probably say the same thing.
He might be on here. I know he liked the comments, so he might be on here. Todd, if you're here, let us know. But let me read your bio. Let me for anybody out there that doesn't know Rick Wormeli, you are, I don't know where you've been because this man is world renowned, right? Let me read the bio. I went right to the biographical part. I took the comments out just for time, right? One of the first nationally board certified teachers in America. You hear that, y'all? I mean, I gotta stop right there. One of the first nationally board certified teachers in America. like we could do the whole bio just on that because there's so much entailed within that in and of itself. Rick brings innovation, energy, validity, and high standards to both his presentations and his instructional practice, which include 43 years teaching math, science, English, physical education, health, and history, and coaching teachers and principals. It's like, y'all, I don't normally do this, but it's like every line is a bio within itself, right? 43 years of teaching. math, science, English, physical education, health, and history, and coaching teachers and principals. Rick's work has been reported in numerous media, including ABC's Good Morning America, Hardball with Chris Matthews, National Geographic, and Good Housekeeping magazine. What Matters Most, Teaching in the 21st Century, and the Washington Post. He is a columnist for AMLE, Association of Middle Level Educators magazine, and a frequent contributor to ASCD's Educational Leadership magazine. He's the author of the award-winning book, Meet Me in the Middle, as well as the best-selling books, Day One and Beyond, Fair Isn't Always Equal, Assessment and Grading in the Differentiated Classroom, second edition, Differentiation from Planning to Practice and Metaphors and Analogies, Power Tools for Teaching Any Subject, all 5 from Stenhouse Publishers, as well as Summarization in Any Subject, 60 Innovative and Tech-Infused Strategies for Deeper Student Learning, released in 2018, published by ASCD. His book, The Collected Writings So Far of Rick Wormeli, Crazy Good Stuff, I Learned About Teaching Along the Way, is the collection of his published articles, guest blogs, and more through 2013. The second volume, I'm stuttering, man. The second volume with articles from 2013 through 2024 is on the way. His classroom practice is a showcase for ASCD's best-selling series, At Work in the Differentiated Classroom. With his substantive presentations, sense of humor, and unconventional approaches, he has been asked to present to teachers and administrators in all 50 states, Canada, China, Europe, Thailand. No, I'm really bad. Thailand, Japan, Vietnam, Korea, Australia, and the Middle East. And at the White House, he's a seasoned veteran of many international webcasts, and he is Disney's American Teacher Awards 1996 Outstanding English Teacher of the Nation. Wow.
The crowd goes wild.
The crowd goes wild. He won the 2008 James P. Garvin Award from the New England League of Middle Schools for Teaching Excellence, Service, and Leadership. And he's been a consultant for National Public Radio, NPR, USA Today, Court TV, and the Smithsonian Institute's Natural Partners Program, and their search for the giant squid. Rick lives in Herndon, Virginia, with his wife, Kelly. Both are proud of launching the last of their children into adulthood, with the kids' college years now behind them. See, that's from them 45,000 words of writing. I'm exhausted. Rick and Kelly are now eagerly spending their children's inheritance, mostly on their new grandchildren, while Rick rocks on a new book on changing the culture of a school for ethical grading practices. Woo!
Hey,
there's a lot.
I've got a giant squid kite in the corner.
Oh, wow.
A group of kids gave me that after I did a giant squid lecture. With the family photos, these are the child about which we don't speak. Right?
Yeah.
No, we speak wonderfully about it.
That's good stuff. Hey, y'all, hit that share button, hit that retweet button. Let them know we are here. I got in full disclosure, y'all. My wife probably said, "What are you telling them this for?" In full disclosure, y'all, I can't see, y'all. I got these new glasses. Y'all see these new frames, right? They tight, right? So I got these new frames, right? But I got to call the optician as soon as I get off of here, because the bifocal is not positioned properly. I know that, because I can't see myself right now. Because see, in order to see myself, I got to see myself through the bifocal. So I got to do this. Now I see very clearly. So now just looking at, I can't see Rick. I can't see me. I got to position myself to see your comments. That's why I struggle reading this, because I can't see, right? The prescription is right, but the positioning of the bifocal is off. So as soon as we go off, I'm calling like, yo, you got to fix this, right? So anyway, I can see my notes all right. So here we go, y'all. Hey, Rick, last time we were face to face on this platform, I was at my daughter's apartment. It was July 8th, It was session number 167. So that was back almost a year ago, not quite, but almost a year ago, right? So my question to you before we get into our topic, what have you been up to lately? And specifically, what have you done between now and last July 8th that it could not have been talked about on July 8th because it didn't happen yet? Is there something you've done since then that's new to us that didn't exist before that session?
That's really interesting. About today's topic or about anything?
No, anything as it relates to education.
I've grown even better as a grandpa. I'm a new grandpa, so that's been exciting. They're going to be 2 and 4 very soon. They were both, during the COVID craze that they were born. So that's been exciting. So I think I've improved in that, and we've had a good time and a good journey. I've continued to go around. I've written a number of articles and comment pieces for the Washington Post on controversial grading issues, ethics associated with that, equity as a part of that as well. And also articles on, generative AI. Let's pull that back a little bit. There are a number of people who I respect, but are writing these wonderful books about, look at AI in the classroom. And I said, wait a minute. You're having AI do all this stuff that's actually a part of teaching. And I want a functional difference in long-term memory, as Kirchner and others say is the functional effect of learning. And I'm saying we probably need to look about, the most recent article is 8 guidelines on, hey, even if they use AI, let's make sure they're actually learning it. And then when it comes to grading and equity and access and the plagiarism issues and all of that, what are the concerns and guidelines with AI, especially generative AI, in light of ChatGPT 4.0, the new one that is so intuitive and so natural in its voice, and the large language databases they come from? And what does all that mean for us? Because so many people are like, wow, this is going to fundamentally change things. And I say, well, let's take a look at our pedagogical principles and how students best learn and to meet those needs. And so I'm writing a lot and talking about that, about the leader, but also the classroom practitioner in the generative AI world, and what that might mean for a variety of students in our class that we serve, not just the ones that find AI easy and accessible and have the tools, but everybody in our class and what it might mean. So I've been doing a lot of that. And then I've been hot and heavy with keeping up with the book bans, as you're talking about, and writing letters to editors of newspapers here and there, around the country. When I find out something's going on, I write a letter of support.
Wow.
Or I send email to policymakers saying, I encourage you to reconsider this because it has this effect. There are many, many times when people think they're passing legislation or school policy that they think is racially neutral or class neutral or whatever it might be, that on paper technically look fine, but when you look at their ramifications, their actual result become very biasing, very prejudicial. And so I see, look, I understand why you're saying, oh, this is not race-based, or this is not culturally based, or classism, or homophobia, or Muslim phobia, or transgender issues. This is just a statement for everybody. I said, yeah, but the effect of that is this. Oh, now in the repercussions of it, it becomes something we have to address. And I thought we were doing something. And to me, that's not doing your homework.
Yeah.
And that's not sitting down and really sorting it out. You're just doing it very quick to appease everybody around you. And we kind of need to grow a spine. So I've been sending out emails like that, writing commentary. And some of the commentary and articles that I write, I get 2/3 really negative comments like, why don't you just leave America if you're so concerned? And said, no, I love it so much. I want to correct it. I want to help guide its path forward. Trying to, channel my own James Baldwin just to some degree in that regard. But it doesn't always go over well because I think a lot of people may not have the language to use to talk, or they might feel uncertain. And we talked about a little bit last time that they might say something wrong, so they just are quiet, which is consent. And that's a real problem. So I guess I've been doing a lot of that I couldn't have said before. It's continuing on. Oh yeah, I did in preparation for today. on Twitter and Facebook. I did post 3 articles I've written recently, well, within the last few years, like COVID and up through today, on like how do you make constructive responses when you see something biased or prejudicial or racist going on, whether it's unspoken or spoken. One on microaggressions that hasn't gone away; it's only gotten worse. The emboldened nature of that, and then one on, hey, could we talk about CRT not from myth but from truth, and what that is. So there's 3 articles there. If that would help anybody, feel free to grab them and use them in your faculties. There you have it. Oh, I got to go snorkeling. That was really cool.
Yeah, I need to do that.
I do that a lot.
I need to do that. That's a lot. So in other words, to sum it up, you've done a lot since last July 8th, 2023, right? So
yeah.
And there was a method to my madness in asking the question. And by the way, Stacey L. Joy, you make sense there when you say put on the old ones. Here's the problem. The old ones are at the optician now getting the same lens put in so that I could wear them too. So I'm in trouble, right? So so we're gonna take care of that after we get off. But let me there was a method to my madness in asking you that question. The question was not only for you, it was for the fam, the people who are watching, as we call the fam. Hey fam, I'm asking you, what have you done since last July 8th? Right? Not to say that this is the anniversary, but it's the last time Rick was on the platform. What have you done? Right? What have I done? When I wrote the question, I thought about me. What have you done? Right? And I thought about the book that I'm completing, but I also thought about other things. So you and I have to constantly challenge ourselves to continue to do more. When I did my YouTube short this week, and for those of you that didn't see it, check it out on the channel, AP and New Principles Academy. I challenged everybody that tunes in. If you've never written before outside of just your job, write that first book. Let me go in a different sequence. Write that first article. Write that first, let me change that sequence again. Write that first blog post. Write that first article or submit to an organization for it to be published. Write that first book. Don't wait for others to write for you when you're on the front lines doing this work. A lot of times it's people that's doing this writing that have done this research, but don't know the practical side of the work because they've never done it, right? You've done it. You do it every day. So I challenge somebody out there, write a 500-word blog post about what you do that may help somebody else. Submit a proposal to write an article to an ASCD, to an NASSP, to an NAESP, to an AMLE, to a whomever, and get published. But someone that's on the front lines doing this work, that you've got something that could benefit somebody else. And then when I ask you the question again at some later point, what have you done between this period and that period? Oh, I wrote an article. Oh, I wrote a blog post. Oh, I created my own blog page. So now I have a steady stream of articles that I put out, right? Whatever it is. But make sure that you're growing and not allowing yourself to be stagnant. So when I asked Rick that question, I knew he's going to have something. I didn't know what it was, but I wanted to also remind you all that we've got to continue to grow as well. Now,
can I add one more thing?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Because it really, really pertains to last time. You listed a number of books that people should be recommended reading.
Yeah.
It's a short read, but it's one of the most powerful.
Oh, man.
Miseducation of the Negro.
Yeah.
What's that? I made sure I read that. And then I've also, what's the one about Black Principles? Oh, you got old. Oh, yeah. Oh. Look at you, man.
Yeah.
I got fresh printing. But the one about Black Principles and how they were ousted during Board of Education, Brown. There was a book, wonderful book on that. And then I've read two books.
Jim Crow's Pink Slip by.
Yeah, exactly. I got that. And then 2 books on, and I'm just looking it up here as you were talking. And the one, I want to get the correct, one is Legacy. I forgot about that. A Black Physician Reckons with Racism in Medicine. And there's another one in there. And what it is, it's people have done the research on the medical treatment, how it's been so diminished and less than low quality for Black people. and how that's affecting almost all these other things that are going on in the world. So since last time, and I wasn't aware of all those titles, I have read those books.
Wow.
And if you ever want to publish those again, and one more time when you publish this finally, the book suggestions, I had already read Fugitive Pedagogy, but I want to remind people that's powerful to get into that.
Right
Do you
here.
have that one
You
easily?
can't see it though. It's sitting right here on the shelf.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I also, Jonathan Kozel's An End to Inequality just came. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's the one. I love that. But Breaking Down the Walls of Apartheid in Education in America, Jonathan Kozel. I have read this. It just came out in April, guys. So it's since the last time we met. I'm highly recommend it. There's been book studies online. At any rate, the idea that I would continue to do something by becoming more aware, that's an actionable thing we can do.
I love it. Hey, folks, we're gonna jump into it. Let me inform you of the format. Rick doesn't know my questions, and I don't know his. I'm not interviewing him. We're having a conversation, but it'll be rooted in questions that we both generated. We did this back in July of 2023, but we didn't get very far, right? And I think I got to 5 of my 10 questions, and I think Rick did the same. So, we're gonna pick up from where we left off. And again, we don't know. I don't know what he's gonna ask me, and he doesn't know what I'm gonna ask him. So we're gonna see how that flows. So let me start us off, Rick. Last week I did my monologue, as I said earlier, on Brown versus Board of Education, because last Saturday was the day after the 70th anniversary. So I gave some thoughts. I broke down that same data that I used when you were on, as far as the consequences to Black educators relative to the Brown decision. However, I will never poo-poo, as they say, the Brown decision. Right? There's no way in the world that segregated schooling, public schooling in America, should be legal. Right? It's unconstitutional. It should have been abolished, as it was. But in terms of where we are now, in the aftermath of Brown versus the Board of Education, I've got mixed feelings on a multiplicity of levels. Right? We're not going to get into all those feelings, but I got mixed feelings. But the reality is that segregated schooling still exists. I've only worked in segregated schools, for my 21 years in public education. Most of those years, everybody was Black. And then in my last 6 years, I had a 30% Latino population. So they were Black and brown, right? But segregated schools still exist. And then on the flip side, one more flip side, within those segregated Black schools, I know that I was able to get some things done as it related to Black children that I probably would not have been able to get done had I been in a racially diverse school. And that's why I say that I've got mixed feelings on so many levels. In order for me, on a personal level, to be at my best for Black students, I've got to be in a school with Black students for the reasons that people say that the history, for example, can be offensive, right? I've got to go hard on that history, and I've got to be in a situation where I don't have to concern myself with those kinds of consequences. So my question to you, with everything that I just said, what are your thoughts?
Oh, crap, man. That is huge. And
I know.
it expands in so many different directions. And you want me to be cogent? Hey. And helpful? I agree with you that in the tight focus group of the similar affinity, we can get a lot done without the pressures of all the diversity that it might interweave in there. The problem is that we work in a larger world, and hopefully we are not indissolubly linked to one another. Dissent in Plessy v. Ferguson. And so I think we have to prove to white populations or non-Black, whatever it might be, any other population, that otherism doesn't serve, and that we have a responsibility to get over ourselves and to be able to handle this constructively. And we cannot do that unless we are together in that. So if only whites work on themselves to one side and only blacks work on themselves to one side, will the two come together and will appreciate what the hard work of the other side, what they're doing as they're pulling it off. I'm struck by, it might be Carl Rowan, also Ellis Coase, and their writings on Brown v. Board of Education. Dreammakers is one of them, about Thurgood Marshall and all that Thurgood Marshall has said about that. And when we did the forced busing stuff in Michigan, and it was just an uproar, and other places that were doing that, we're putting them together. It didn't go so well, and it did go well. And it really depended on the leadership, of the building and what they were willing to commit to do, even if it was uncomfortable. I think there is intense value that we are together in the room, and that each group learns the skills of constructive interaction, conversation, and move forward. I think there is great value to those of us who are dealing with this particular challenge to talk freely amongst ourselves without the specter of judgment. We can't be our authentic selves when we're always trying to, in a sense, put on some kind of construct that makes you comfortable, but is really uncomfortable to me. But I don't want to have the agitation in you as I'm trying to resolve these other issues here. But without us working together, I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm still sold on the policy that extended, intense living experience with one another is one of the most solid routes to overcoming some of the racism, the bias, the prejudicial nature. That we see people as fully dimensionalized, not a caricature of something. I think so many people are intensely quick to characterize Colin Kaepernick and others for a practice without willing to do the deeper dive. You are willing to do the deeper dive when you live with one another and you share that experience. So it's striking that, we may have said this before, but when you're around military bases or anything that has an international diplomatic community, there are multi-race families, all over the place. Cultures come together and people live just fine, and they begin to really respect and appreciate each other. And so that's very cool. Yes, there are still some racist things in the military. Totally got that. But in general, the larger community tends to be more supportive of, hey, let's come together and learn from each other. But in places that are insular, that stuff just festers and it feeds into a fear of other. And there's less, for me, that scarcity mindset about which we spoke before. And I don't think that's constructive. So is there a solution where, for example, maybe it's just as contentious, all girls school, all boys school, where we can really have a heart to heart and talk about what it means to be a boy better than when girls are in the room? Yes, there's room for that. But is it a soul diet without having the other group become very, very aware of what's going on and develop the skills to make this a successful, constructed life that we construct together rather than separately? I think there's still many whites in the United States, if not around the world, who think they can go about their whole daily life without having to interact with Black people. So why should I spend energy trying to get to know them, trying to work with them, trying to understand their history? I think there are many whites who do not see the larger context of our lived life today based in the context of historical record and what's happened before, and how that informs and shapes and influences literally how we interact with each other today. So if I don't see my teaching or my building leadership in larger context of humanity, then I'm less effective. I'm really narrow in my focus, which means I'm allowed to dismiss things that aren't immediately urgent. And I also don't have a calling. I don't have a cause or something larger than myself to which I'm trying to aspire and help my community grow, in that direction as well. I'll stop there.
I want to pick up on something you said. So that individual who's white, who the motivation is to live my life without having to deal with other races, right? Without having to deal with Black people. I just live my life.
Or brown of any sort, any other. I can just go to the store, the school, everything with my white bubble.
Yeah. Now let's say hypothetically that and if this goes outside of the boundaries that you place as far as this person, then tell me, let's say that this person is of that mentality, but your day job is in a school where there are Black children. So before you answer that, can this person fit that description? Can I be that person that wants to live in that bubble, but my day job is in a school and there happen to be Black children in that school?
You cannot do that without deflecting or choosing to segmentize or choosing to say, I will tolerate this because I know I can get back to my normal after school. In other words, I can live in defiance of that or not accept the reality of that, or just say, oh, look at me, I'm being generous and I'm being very compassionate by doing this for a portion of my life. But I can breathe again once I'm within my own kind. And I think every human has that sense of belonging to a group, how empowering that is and comforting that is. I get that. Totally understand that. We want to be comforted. And it takes more bandwidth for me to try to understand you rather than just keep to myself and my own. I get it. And today, people are so stressed out and so anxious. And we have a tsunami rise in panic disorders and depression. And people are dealing with mental health issues. I get that. We have a rise of fentanyl and opioids and all these different things going on. Totally get that. But it doesn't lessen the need for us to connect with one another and see this as a source of strength, as meaning making, and as powerful, not as a source of, oh, I must endure and tolerate it. It has to be a source of, this is what makes me whole. And we have to get teachers to that point. And I'm such a believer in that experiential learning thing that we mentioned last time, that if I don't experience that, it's hard for me to accept it as a truth as we go through that. So in answer to your question, I don't think you can be effective if you continue to deflect or merely put up with that reality momentarily until you get back to your own, or say it's something you endure or tolerate, or you're being generous. You have to sincerely enjoy being in the company of people and children of color in order to really begin to know them, to make connection, and to be effective as an instructor, let alone as a building leader.
And that's a huge challenge, because you can't make somebody enjoy something
That's
that
right.
they don't enjoy, right?
I would remind everybody, you can't motivate anyone to do anything.
Right.
Motivation is a wellspring from within, right?
That's
So
right.
I have to create the conditions such that you feel enticed to invest in what's going on and find value in it. That I can do. But yeah, I can control, I can coerce. I cannot motivate another
Right.
human.
It's like I say to people all the time, I can teach, we collectively, everybody on in the fam, we can teach you a particular skill in what whether it be in education or whatever, right? I can teach you how to shoot a basketball, right? I can teach you a skill, but the one thing I will never be able to teach you is compassion. I can tell you what compassion is. I can tell you what it may look like, feel like, but I can't teach you to have compassion for somebody else. And so it makes me think about that person you just described. And I can't teach you to want to be in that environment. It's got to be from within. So then therefore the question, and I mean it rhetorically, but you can jump in here. The question is, what good is this individual that really doesn't like and enjoy the surroundings upon which I find myself? Right?
I just kind of feel like they're wayward, a little bit lost and uninformed, and they just haven't discovered that part of themselves yet.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm giving benefit of the doubt. But perhaps we could sit one night and watch The Way They See Us and Origin by Anna DuVernay. And through the movie, they get a sense of, oh, that's what that's like. And that's what that feels like. And they begin to put on to a first step at empathy. They'll never have full empathy, but a sympathy and the idea that I find this just or unjust, but it's the emotional response And it's not a rational, the emotion comes first, and then the rational, logical sense of, oh, we should not be prejudicial. We should not be biased in this. But I have to somehow create a curiosity and an emotional wish to invest further. Even though some parts of it might rip you up, I still now want to continue my growth experience in that. So if I can, like I for many, like 20 years in my, maybe 22 years in my practice, I took kids camping for a week. Leave on a Monday, come back on a Friday. We're in the woods, no screens, no electronics for a whole week. You are to shed those things that you're used to using to navigate life or to escape from others. And we're going to do a ropes course. We're going to go walk along the trail at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night when it's dark. And you're going to sit 100 feet apart by yourself and think about what it's like to be in the forest at night. We're going to do archaeological digs, and I'm going to do compass courses. I mean, we did this stuff. And we're going to learn, solving problems and all kinds of things, working together. And roles reverse. We climb Old Rag Mountain in Shenandoah National Park. And kids who are strong and cool and popular in the classroom are suddenly very nervous, high on a rock ledge. And somebody who was not accepted, who was very, very different, will take their belt loop and say, I've got you. You're not going anywhere. Let's walk and do this together. When we come back from that week, everything changes. One, they appreciate carpet. Yay. But they come back and they are so seeing everybody else as a fully dimensionalized person, and that they didn't have to hold on to the trappings that society and cement had kind of gathered in them, and screens and social media expectations. The need for external validation. They knew who they were. It started fostering this glow that would rise up and say, I want more of that. And that comes with human connection. And if I don't, as a building leader or as a classroom teacher to students, if I don't facilitate those conditions and those connections like that, they never feel the emotional or psychological reward. I mean, literally, dopamine is released, and you have a moderate sense of well-being. And we want more dopamine. It's a healthy craving, not a addictive craving like that. Although cell phones give us some dopamine spurts in the bloodstream, but we get a very positive dopamine release from that. And humans are naturally seeking belonging and affinity with those others. So I find it unnatural. You haven't discovered this or allowed yourself to feel this yet. Oh, let me provide that for you. And I will look for creative ways to do that.
Let me throw this in here. I tell people all the time, and my wife attended, we attended a basketball game last Sunday, but before I get there, I tell people all the time, when I watch sports, I'm looking at sports through the lens of an educator always, right? So we go to the Knick game last Sunday at Madison Square Garden, Game 7. 20,000 plus people in the arena. The overwhelming majority, obviously, are Knick fans. The team is predominantly Black. So I'm looking at this game. I didn't even broach this with my wife as I normally would. I just kind of processed it. I said, the team is predominantly Black. The fans are predominantly white, right? And that's, a lot of that's ticket prices and so forth. But everybody's rooting for the Knicks, with the exception of a smaller percentage who are rooting for the Indiana Pacers, right? Now, while we're all in there, and just while we're all in there, there's this great sense of unity in those 2-3 hours that we're going to be in the arena. And we are all focused on the same thing. And if the expectation, I want y'all to hear me, fam, hear me too. If the expectation is that the Knicks can't win this game by the experts, the fans who are in the arena at the game are not trying to hear that. To the fans in the arena, we believe in our team, and our team is going to be victorious, and we're going to root for them throughout the game. But watch this. You got the few Pacer fans in the arena, and it is just common fan behavior that we're going to make those Pacer fans feel unwelcome, uncomfortable. How dare you root against this team? Now, again, I want you to see the analogy. The team happens to be predominantly Black. The audience is predominantly white. But it don't matter in this space. We with you, and we expect victory. In fact, we expect the NBA Finals championship. So where I'm getting at, imagine in schools, when you got that one in there, that few in there, and I don't have those Ivy League, those HBCU, those entrepreneurial, those solid career, whatever it is, expectation. I see you as less than. And it's not that you said that. I can see it by your conscious behavior. I can see it by your standards. I can see it by your expectation. That's the Pacer fan in the garden. So what are we doing in the school to make you feel uncomfortable, since you were so bold to be contrarian, right? What are we doing? And see, I don't know that in the school we do that toward making folks feel like I don't even belong in this environment, because we're in this low performing school. There's all sorts of challenges outside of the school, but there's this percentage of people in the school that expect these kids to compete with kids in suburban schools that don't have those challenges. But then you got that contrary. Nah, it'll never happen here. It's too much going on in their homes. It's too much going on in the community. The odds are against them. If we can just get average out of them, we've done something. I know we're still on the first question, but I still want to throw, and we on the first my question. We never even got to yours, but I still want to throw that at you. How do we make the school mirror the arena or the stadium where there's 60 to 80,000 people, and those fans that appear that are not for the home team, they know they're in the place because the fans that's for the home team is going to let them know you really don't belong here. How do we make that real in the school?
I'm reminded of what we talked a little bit about last time with teachers when it's emotionally neutral and not in the urgent moment. I have to decide this like right now because it's happening right now. That we actually pause and actually talk about these scenarios and hypotheticals on our own in small groups. Let's really come to a place where we are, here's what's going on with the student. What would a highly conscientious teacher do? A very effective teacher, a compassionate teacher do? And we explore that because I can sit there as that contrarian teacher and hear 5 of my 6 colleagues in my small group say these wonderful things that I don't agree with. And then I can, without making myself vulnerable, go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I can do that. I was unaware, or I was thinking this other thing, without having to expose my bias or my prejudicial thinking or my contrarian thought. And so it becomes a safe place. And so I want to create a condition where you're allowed to be candid and imperfect, and then change and revise as a result of perspective, rather than admonish for your perspective, because that's never going to go over well. I'm going to start getting defensive and push back, and I'm not going to want to engage in your perspective. I think that's one thing we can do. I also think that we can do a heck of a lot more with getting the families to come into school and describe what their experience of local school is like. When you send this home, here's how it comes across. Here's how it affects their family life at night. Is that what you wanted? And the families can also come in and say, let me tell you all about Miguel or Iqbal or Umber or David or Lakeisha or Dave, whoever it might be. And now there's more than one more paper to grade. I'm going to teach like that mom or dad is in my room, rather than I hope that nobody finds out what I just did, or that I'm kind of perpetuating this other thing that would never fly if I was in that person's home. So I do believe in home visits, as if at all comfortable to do that, not in judgment, but in I need to gather information so I can be my full teacher self, to allow the child to be his self or herself as in full as well. And then we're entering into a relationship. I love looping. I love where you stay with the same kids for multiple years for that subject. I am your science teacher for 3 years. I am your English teacher for years, because that means over the summer and throughout the year, We fundamentally changed the way we talk to each other because we're into a long-term relationship. So I talk to maintain that positive relationship. I don't talk just to get through the day and through the lesson. I am committed to the entirety of you, which means I need to know the subjects well above me and below me so I can move you through that. Over the summer, I plan for you specifically as an individual, and I know where you came from and I know where you're going to. So when I teach in the present, I'm teaching with the full context of all of that, and I can bring all kinds of things to bear. But if I didn't loop, I would not have that. It would be this real, insular little echo chamber for the 1 year, and then we move on, and there's no commitment to one another. I think we can do those things. But the person who's contrarian, I think that this is a perfect moment for the AP, the P, an instructional coach, a cognitive coach of some sort, to say, when you say this, it comes across like this. Is that what you intended? In other words, that pitch back. And they go, oh, no. And I go, good. How would you like to rephrase it so it gets to what we talked, what you wanted to intend? And when you say this, it might, inflame this or do that. Let's work with it. I love the idea of being a coach in that moment as a leader. Tell me more about that. Where does that come from? Does that come from a place of nurture and support? Or does it come from a place of media influence? Or does it come from a place of perhaps a religious intolerance or something? Whatever it is. But the coach asks the questions to get you to arrive at the discovery, not me to say or telegraph the trait, as Jim Knight would say. I'm not going to tell you this is wrong or right. I'm going to ask the questions to get you to arrive there. So I love starting out with, what do you notice? So I walk in and say, what do you notice about the Black kids in your class, the Latina kids, the LGBT community in your class? What are you noticing? And I want them to at least do that. Good. Great. Now, what would be really much more constructive? The last little part of this is I remind you of something I think we talked about. And I think I know we did. If you don't have that wide repertoire, that wide variety of ways to teach, and the wide variety to assess all that, you're going to get really scared when people ask you to mix it up and be versatile and really understand and take it. It's beyond the bandwidth once again. Yeah. And therefore you're going to be scared. You're going to be panicked that people will find out that you are more incompetent than you thought you were. Teachers are very used to being in a position of competence. I know my stuff. And some teachers, the first few years at least, worry that people will find out they're a fake. And we have to make it very comfortable for a teacher to say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm out of my depth. Can you help me? And if we don't have that culture where you are not judged for perceiving a deficit in your pedagogy, in your practices, or a bias in that, and then wanting to constructively change that, then this is probably never going to move the needle at all. So creating that culture where the principal, assistant principal become vulnerable and admit, here was something I had to let go from my practice. Here's how it was hard for me. And here are the benefits that came when I did it, the doors that were opened, the students who now also they were released from that which kept them bound to something else that was less than desirable or outright harmful. I need to give that testimony. You do that very well, by the way, in your presentations. But the idea that I was once here and now I'm here and you can walk that path, I'm not going to change and do the work for you, but I will walk with you as you walk that path. That's principal gold.
Yeah. I love it. Throw a question at me.
Oh, well, I don't remember if we talked about this, and I want to know your answer. So I at the risk of repeating ourselves, I'm working with a heck of a lot of schools where teachers don't have a degree because we need people in the classroom. We got to, and teachers we're quitting, right? And
are they charter or public or private?
These are charter and public, not private. I do work with independent private schools a lot, and some places are struggling, but these are public schools. But remember, charter schools are public. For those of you
hold that thought real quick.
Yep.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, so they're public schools and charter schools are public schools, right? So here's the deal. What are we doing in schools of teacher ed to prepare teachers that go through those degrees to work with the classrooms and embrace the diversity and do those equity measures? What can those schools do to prepare pre-service teachers? And then people like me who get called in. Pretty much I get an email every day, if not more than one. Would you come work with our faculty on basic teaching, responsive teaching, equity measures? Because we have teachers who don't even have a degree. They just happen to love books. So now they're an English teacher. We needed somebody to come in and they seemed like they were nice.
Yeah.
Or second career teachers from military, software engineers, architectural, math, scientists who want a great second or third active life and now want to become a teacher. Can you get them up to speed? And so what I need to do is, how do I build into a teacher preparation program the disposition, which has dramatic effect on real practice, the disposition for DEI, and the disposition for embracing diversity, multiculturalism, whatever it is, or getting those people up to speed, the activities we can do where they come in having had none of this because they don't have a 4-year degree or a 5-year degree. Any advice there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long-term oriented advice, and I probably addressed this the last time because I talk about it so much, but it's worth saying.
It's okay if it's worth repeating.
No, you got that right. See, I think about often every day of my life, people who are in schools who their initial familiarity with people that don't look like them is when they get the job as a teacher.
Oh yeah.
Right. So prior to me becoming a teacher, now when I say me, I'm just talking about a generic person. Prior to me becoming a teacher, I was in that bubble you described about 15 minutes ago. So here I am. I grow up in a certain community and we're not racially diverse. We're not culturally diverse. We're not ethnically diverse. We're who we are. So in this case, let's say that they're white, right? So I'm in this white community and everything I do is white. However, I do listen to Black music, particularly hip hop, right? I do watch television shows with Black themes or movies with Black themes, but in terms of my daily interaction with people, Black people may not necessarily be in my life because they're not in my community, right? So I don't, and thereby not in my school as a student. So now, what I know about Black people, to use Black as my example, is what I hear in the music, right? What I see in the video,
very
what I
limited
see on the
reference.
television show, right? So in my mind, because I'm so limited in what I know about Black people, in my mind, Black people are what I get out of listening to hip hop music or whatever genre of music, right?
Yeah.
The television show I watch, the movies that I've seen, the news on at 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11, right? All that kind of stuff, right? So now my conceptualization of what a Black person is so limited and so flawed. So now I go on to undergraduate school.
But nonetheless, we think it's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I go on to undergraduate school and I decide I want to study education. So I go on and I'm in there for 4 years, and there's very little that's dealing with diversity in my pre-service training, and particularly because I'm gonna use my default being Black students. So particularly around educating Black children, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm ready. I graduate and I'm ready to hunt for a job. And I find a job in an urban location in an inner city or rural location that's predominantly Black or has a sizable Black population. So now I'm here and I want to do a great job. But the problem is my initial exposure to sustained interaction with Black people are these children in my classroom. And outside of that, all I have is what I've been exposed to, whether it be the music, whether it be the TV show, the Broadway play, the movie, whatever, but I haven't had anything sustained. And then I juxtapose that with, I have no reason necessarily to know the history that got us here. So now I'm seeing life being played out in a classroom amongst young people. but I don't know the foundation of that life. I
Yeah.
don't know the history of that life. I don't know where that's coming from. And then and then you juxtapose that into racism, which is as American as apple pie, as they say. I don't know that world because I haven't been exposed to it. So now here I am in a situation where they want me to be equitable. They want they want me to have this diversity lens. They want me to have this inclusive lens. But that language in a professional development setting is so out of context because I have no historical foundation. I have no cultural foundation. So what you're asking me to do doesn't make the sense that it would make, say, for myself that has a much more extensive background in this than say that new teacher, that new white teacher that hasn't been around Black people, right? So
can colleges really functionally do that in their preparation program?
Yeah, so here's the thing. So now that program has to change drastically. That program has to look within itself and say, what is it that we're doing? And there's got to be a lot of specificity in the conversation. What is it that we're doing to train our majority? Because the majority of teachers in America are white, 80%. What are we doing, and particularly white women? What are we doing to train the majority to work in a school community where that majority is not represented in the children?
Yeah.
See, and I don't know that that question is being asked in earnest, right? What will this 4 years look like for this suburban student who may wind up going into an urban environment or a rural environment that he or she knows absolutely nothing about the dynamics of what that entails relative to just living, right?
And riffing on that, it's like 2 years ago, I read the latest stats. The majority of children in K-12 schools are of color. They are not white in today's schools.
That's right.
So minority becomes the majority.
That's
and
right.
The majority now is a position of minority. And if I'm going to be functional and be a future educator, I have to be prepared to work with people other than my bubble and that comfort. And so I have to be taught how to do that and how to negotiate with myself and navigate all my own feelings with that. So that needs to be a paramount. If you're really going to graduate somebody from a school of teacher ed and claim that they are capable now in the classroom of taking on a group of students, that's dysfunctional unless literally I am prepared for that reality.
Yeah.
And I don't find it worrisome. I find it strengthening and empowering.
Yeah, it's to use a played out word now, a reimagination.
Yeah.
Right, of how we prepare students for their initial years of teaching. But I also say often that the process cannot start at the undergraduate level. At the middle school level, I say, and I'm staunch with this. At the middle school level, we need to begin to intentionally identify who are those youngsters sitting in these 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classrooms who may even have a fleeting interest in one day becoming a teacher. And then we start, then we create the club. See, I led a club as a principal, Future Teachers of America.
I love FTA,
yeah. And so in New Jersey. So now at the middle school level, we start that conversation. It doesn't mean that they're going to become a teacher, but since they've expressed some level of an interest, okay, well, let's start now.
Yeah.
But not the way the university is doing it. But let's make sure that this conversation. So now we got to get past the I'm afraid of equity, I'm afraid of race, I'm afraid of diversity, I'm afraid of inclusion. We got to get rid of all that. Because if that's still going to be the barrier, then we'll never have the real conversation. Right. And we got to have the real conversation if we're serious about teachers walking into schools and being that change agent that they can potentially become. We gotta get past that. Like, there's someone on here is way up the thread, but she was saying, in our school, we can have that conversation. And of course, I wouldn't be on this platform having this conversation with you if I wasn't that guy as a principal. I don't think I ever had a staff meeting without this conversation. That staff meeting was replete with this conversation because that's who the students were in the building. So we're going to talk race, ethnicity, culture, diversity, etc., to ensure that we understand our role in the classroom with these Black and brown urban young people who are living a Black and brown urban life, right? So many of them, their world is the community, if not the block that they live on, right? So as a teacher, I have to understand that we'll be in the classroom talking about the world is yours, but you got youngster in the classroom, I don't know the world beyond such and such street. Right? Like, I grew up on Eppert Street in East Orange. I don't know the world, not me, but I'm using it just the name of the street as an example. I don't know the world beyond this block. This is my world.
Yeah.
So how do you, as teacher, you come in, you happen to be white. I understand that you're white. And now you trying to sell me on this world thing that I'm not seeing people in my community who, when they were younger, benefited from this. Make this make sense, that there's a correlation between me giving you maximum effort in this math class, this science class, this language arts class, this social studies class, and now that's going to open up doors for me and give me access to this world when I don't see this in my little world. Make this make sense for me.
And have my actions reflect what your posters say on your wall and your platitudes. That they become platitudes and they're empty phrases. And that speaks to the complexity of the student that we have to recognize and not do simplistic, stereotypical classifications. For example, you mentioned last time 6'8" defensive lineman coming in. How are we going to respond to that? Are we immediately going to get worried about that? But I've had kids like that, although probably 6'5", when I taught middle school at the time, and come in and they're just really large. They've grown really fast. But then I find out, oh, you got Scrabble in here? I am a whiz at Scrabble. Let me just sit down. And they love Scrabble, the game Scrabble. That's an initial stereotype. I wouldn't think, you're totally into football, that you would love Scrabble. Oh, that was me being aware of my biases. I've seen so many kids with hoodies up and buds in their ears, and they're walking down the hall or they're sitting quietly in the back. I'm like, hey, come on, stop listening to that stuff. Take the hood, all these different things. And turns out they're listening to their religious lessons for their Muslim school. They weren't listening to something that was derogative, of others, or something that was, threatening to anybody else. They were doing something that was incredibly valuable to them and a very constructive thing. And I had this presumption to take a simplistic understanding from listening to some set of music or watching one sitcom that has predominantly Black characters and assuming that was the truth for all the people that saw in front of me. I have to be vigilant and attentive to dismantling, to destroying those stereotypes and thinking kids were my simplistic classifications according to my narrative.
Yeah. Whew. Lot there. Let me throw another one at you.
No promises of wisdom.
Yeah, we just going to the fam out there. We just going to kick it and go back and forth on a few things, and again, my default, this, Rick, my default is always Black because that's what I am. This is the life I live.
Sure.
And and where Black children are in that achievement gap, etc. The percentage of Black male teachers in America.
Yes.
It depending on whose study you read, it typically ranges from 1.2% to about 1.9%. It never hits the 2% mark. It's always in that 1% range, right? 1.2 to 1.9. One I was looking at last night was about 1.3, right? So there's an expression within the African American community that says, I can't be what I can't see. So, if I'm Black child and you're selling me on all these things that I could one day do, all these possibilities, all these opportunities, and you're teaching me how to navigate the world so that ultimately I can get to this place. The challenge, though, but show me someone that looks like me that's successfully doing this, right? And that's the challenge. So what I did as a principal, I went out into the community and went fishing. And I said, I brought in, I had a roster of about 200 black men. And I said, and Latino men. And I said, I need you to come to my school. I didn't exhaust the list because I had more than I needed, but I had so many people. So I said, I need you to come in just one day out of your life. I don't, because I have so many. I just need you to come in one day. This was a spectrum of men, from highly professional to OG that just got out of jail, and everybody in between, right? So I had the full spectrum. So I'd pull from each end and in the middle of who I'd want to come in on a Monday. We called it Power Monday. Put my guys in shirt, tie, slack, shoes, and a belt, on the sole purpose that this is how I dressed as the principal. So I wanted you emulating the principal in terms of attire.
Sure.
Not
Yeah,
to say
yeah.
the dress made that the attire made the man. It's just, I said, this is how I dress as your principal. So I want you to look like the principal. Mother said, I'm with that. So now we had the entire school in shirt, tie, slack, shoes, and a belt. So not every day. I only needed it on Monday. So we'd have a different grade level on a Monday, and we'd have these 3-4 hour conversations, right? So now in that setting, my students got to see people who were in these capacities in their cafeteria, explaining to them life before they got these jobs or these roles or these positions
Oh,
or
yeah.
entrepreneurship, whatever it is. There's one of my staff right there that was right there. Or Power Monday. I see you, Miss Wallace. So
That's
so
cool.
now they got to see people who were doing this. And of course, I was always cognizant of how they were seeing me, always, and my male staff in the building. So I'm saying that to ask you this question. It's a powerful question. With white women representing the overwhelming majority of the teaching staff in America, and knowing that there are chances that a black boy can go K-12 and never ever see
Yeah.
a black man, not once. So I want you to think about this. A black boy can go through K-12, pre-K-12, and he can go into his own home and not see a black man for his entire young years, right? So my question to you is, because we said we're gonna go heavy on this race thing. Can a white woman, and I don't want to paint with a broad brush on this question, but matter of fact, instead of me, because I'm trying to ask this question without looking at my notes. Let me look at my notes so I can be sensitive.
Please
With
do.
white
It's really
women
okay.
representing, the overwhelming majority of the teachers in America, is it realistically to believe that the masses, if I didn't go off my notes, this was not going to come off right, that the masses of white women have the ability to connect? Let me read it again. Is it realistic to believe that the masses of white women have the ability to connect with urban and rural black children in general and black boys in particular? And before you answer that question, I'm gonna say this one thing, and then I'm gonna give it over to you. As a black man in the schools, the two schools that I taught, and having been the only black man in the two schools I taught, East Orange, New Jersey, which has a residential population of over 90% black, and Brooklyn, New York City, where I was in Crown Heights, where the school population was practically 100% black. I knew definitively that me being a black man in those classrooms with those children played a significant role in those children being successful with me. And a lot of them, they'll tell me, I wish some of them were on this thread right now, but I haven't seen any of their names, but a lot of times they pop up and they'll tell you, right? that was a difference maker. Statistically, in terms of research, the research says if a Black child has at least 2 Black teachers, male or female, 2 Black teachers before 12th grade, there's a much higher probability that they go to college, right?
Oh,
So
that's good to know.
that's out there, right? So, but I want to go back to Black men on the question, can the masses of white women make it happen, given that the majority of the teaching staff is the masses of white women? What are your thoughts? And I'm going to share my thoughts after you.
Okay. Well, just 2 or 3 reactions, then I'll get out of your way and we'll hear from you. One is that I don't think they can do it to the degree that perhaps some think they can. I think if I see a person doing these things, it makes it personal. Every month that I taught, and some years were better than others, I would get 1 or 2 professionals from the field to literally come in the room and spend an hour, hour and a half with my kids, talking about how they were using things from school to do these things in the world, so the kids could see themselves being an ichthyologist or a marine biologist or cephalopod expert or a mathematician. In other words, we're not learning this stuff in abstract. And you read a textbook of some sort and it just says, oh, people do this, but you never meet the person or see them really do it. And to this day, I have people coming up, I mean, dozens and dozens and dozens over the years we've crossed paths who said, I went into that field because of that 1 90-minute session with that professional. And I tried to get a variety of people, culture, but to see myself doing these things, I need to have that model. So it is spot on for so many reasons, your Power Monday thing that you're talking about. What a great, wonderful idea that people heretofore, I mean, the students heretofore thought, I can't see myself doing that, but now I can. I have the vivid proof of it. And that's the way we actually get a lot of people to invest in really anything beyond just how do I survive the day and get an A in my paper, or whatever it might be, or at least a passing C as they're doing that. I would hope if you're doing that Power Monday, it wouldn't be just with men, that women would be invited too, so the girls could see themselves.
Yeah,
well, at some point you did do that.
Here's the teacher, one of my teachers, who's a woman, Khadijah Maylock. She said, yes, that's right. Power Monday worked in North Tech. We also had the male and female empowerment.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so yeah.
That would be very important to do that. I think that most white women teachers are conscientious and want to do right, but they don't always have the tools or the perspective quite yet. Yeah. And so to me, that's very fixable. To me, that's a challenge area, a problem area that we can actually have a constructive response. What I think they can do is model how to be an individual human in a democracy who values diversity, compassion, equity, and all these things. They can do that, but it will be of limited effect until somebody of that person's color or culture. So I'm thinking again, when I grew up in California, one of the biggest things we talked about was the Japanese internment programs and what was going on with imprisoning Japanese people and families in camps in California. And then I grew up hot and heavy, intensely playing soccer in San Jose, California. And all of my friends of Hispanic descent, they were the Chicano reference. And so I have my Chicano friends. And you begin to see them in the whole. But if my Hispanic background friends did not see people of that descent and that lineage out there doing the things, it would be one more proof that they don't belong. And why would a teacher spend the entire day inadvertently or advertently giving proof that you don't belong here, that you're different, rather than you can be invited to be a part of this? It is like on purpose, you're trying to thwart them and push them away, even though you might not be aware of it. So I think they can model basic decency as a human, and the idea of, oh, I did know that, let me grow from that. And how does a mature person do that? But I don't think it will have the full effect until men and women of color are in front of the children. So the question, literally one of my questions was, how do we do that recruiting? I have read so many articles of late. I have talked to so many principals. How do I get men of color in? And have a variety of ideas on that. But I was hoping that we could get some from you too. I'm going to turn it over to you to give your response. Can white women
Yeah,
really meet that need?
yeah,
Go.
yeah. See, the key word in that question, and I'm gonna read it again, is it realistic to believe that the masses of white women,
Yeah, yeah.
word was the word masses, and I'm glad that I read my notes instead of just freestyle, because I would have missed that word masses. And see, I led 4 different schools. I almost want to do a roll call, but I won't because I'll miss somebody. But I had some extraordinary white women in every school I taught. Right, every school I taught. Matter of fact, I'm just wondering if any of them are on here. I had because some of them do watch, and so when I say masses, what's implied is the others, right? So we know that there with any mass of people, there going to be some people who stand out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yes, when that teacher, that white teacher, comes into that classroom, in this case, white woman, understanding that these are not generic children. I can't be colorblind. I can't be culture blind, right? I've got to ensure that I understand the children in front of me, because I am not a teacher of content first. Yes, I teach content, but that's
Yeah,
secondary to what I do.
yeah,
I
yeah.
am a teacher of children first. Well, if I treat children as just children and don't consider who these children are relative to their cultural, racial, ethnic, etc., socioeconomic background, then I'm missing the totality of that child. So it's like when you and I go out and speak. If I'm gonna speak in Metro Detroit on Monday, but I'm gonna speak in Little Falls, Montana, Great Falls, Montana on Tuesday, right? Well, it can't be the same kafele. It's me, but my delivery in Metro Detroit is going to be very different from my delivery in Great Falls, Montana, right? So I have to be prepared. I have to prepare myself, not just in terms of content, but I have to prepare myself in terms of who's sitting in those seats, so that I can bring not only the right message, but the right delivery to that audience.
Mhm.
So I have to bring a level of understanding of who's there. I was in a town, and I don't mean to be political on this. I just want to keep it real. I was in a town and they said to me, I'm not even going to tell you what state it is because I don't want to promote it that way. But I
Sure.
was in this town and they said to me, now understand, this town is the headquarters for Donald Trump, right? They said this is his headquarters for this state. I said, okay. And so now in terms of my mental preparation, I'm not preparing the way I would for Metro Detroit, or certain parts of Cleveland, or certain parts of Atlanta, and so on and so forth, Houston and Dallas. I'm preparing for that environment, right? So I'm not going to say, oh, these are teachers, they're generic. So the way it came across in Detroit will be fine in Montana, or
Yeah,
be
yeah, right.
fine in that town where they said this is Trump headquarters, right? No, I have to be ready to just walk in the room. That's going to be different, because in certain cities, there's going to be a cluster of people who are going to be standing there with my books in hand, with their cameras out, ready to take pictures, and I'm going to be loving all of it, right? That's what I do. But then I go to another place, and you could feel they mad I'm there. You could feel that, like, oh man, what he doing here, right? That type of thing. Or who the heck is he? And what's he got for us? So now I have to prepare for that. So I'm saying all that to say, with that teacher, you got to know this environment. You got to know where you are. you got to know what it is to walk in these children's shoes. And how you going to do that? You got to do your homework. You can't stereotype. You can't generalize. You got to familiarize yourself with that community. You got to familiarize yourself with that school. You got to study the data. You got to go in there equipped. But then as you get in there, now you got so much to learn. Not only, so let's say you're working on another degree, a master's degree. Well, there's a degree that you're working on that doesn't confer upon you a diploma, a certificate, and that's called the degree of knowing the culture of the children that I serve, having an understanding of the truths of the children that I serve, and in doing so, still maintaining a high level of belief in them, a high level of expectation for them and standards for them, a high level of them feeling like they belong, that they're welcome, that there's somebody in my presence, all that kind of stuff, and never lowering my expectation, right? But being equitable, and wherever they are, meeting them right there. But if I'm that teacher, going back to the original question, when I said the masses, if the masses are not only trained, because training is very formal, but seek out just the desire to want to know, right? See, that's different from sitting somewhere and somebody's training you, somebody's teaching you,
right?
Whereas I'm seeking out. I want to know. I want to be the best me. Like, let me give you this example. I use a lot of basketball analogies. Kobe Bryant. He used, and you probably noticed, he used to call, when he was young, he used to call Michael Jordan and other stars and say, teach me that move. Mm-hmm. Teach me that move you did on me. Right? I was listening to Gary Payton, used to play for the Sonics, and he said, Kobe said, you got to teach me that. And he said, next thing he knew, Kobe was doing that on him. Right? So that's not Kobe sitting in the coaches meeting, studying film and listening to the coaches teach. That's Kobe saying, I got to get out here. I want to be great. I want to be the best at my craft. So let me get out here and seek out knowledge. And I don't have so much pride that I can't ask my opponent to teach me what you know toward making me great. So that's the model that I'm putting forth for that teacher to say, look, I'm in this environment and these children are underperforming, but they are, if I could be spiritual, but they are God's children. So what am I doing to make that connection and to make learning fun and relevant for those children so that they could maximize their potential and live their lives on their own terms?
You got the German physicist Max Planck, who said all science advances one funeral at a time. And so the idea, if you're in the scientific world, and we are a social science, you have to be in the practice of recognizing there will be hurt, there will be sting, and letting go of one thing while you reach for something else. And if I claim to be effective with children, I need to not take offense, and I need to subdue that hurt and not take it so personally when I am told this would be a better option than you doing this. Here's this other thing that can happen. That's not an affront. It's not an assault. It should not be perceived as a threat, but like, oh yeah, we're in this together to help all the individual kids learn, not just have a picture of me doing the wise and effective thing, which may not be effective coming from a white woman or a white man. Yeah. In this moment, it might be better served to have someone of color doing that. Yeah. Or somebody from that culture who does it better. And I can't feel all upset like, well, they don't think I'm not competent. They don't think I'm not nice. I don't want the first thing to come out of somebody's mouth is, but I'm not racist, but I'm not biased. I mean, we all hold on to certain biases and microaggressions against different groups for different times, weak, strong, whatever it might be in there. But the idea that we're vigilant and we're open and we see correction as a loving act, a supportive act, not an attack act, that we see assessment of ourselves and critique of ourselves as information gathering so that we can use that to improve what's going on. But we have to have a regular practice, just like scientists do, and mathematicians and engineers everybody else involved in that, of killing off or killing our darlings, the things we're holding on to. I remind teachers every year, try to identify 1 or 2 things every year that you're going to stop doing. You're going to let go of it. You're going to realize it doesn't work. It might be zeros on the 100-point scale in a grading situation, moving into minimum 50s. I'm going to stop saying those should get a 0. I'm going to embrace the idea should get a 50. I wrote a whole article on that. If anybody has an issue, let me know. We'll talk later. But that's something I had to let go of it. Over my dead body is that going to happen? But that was me with limited perspective. And so I find the true professionals are they're always the ones that are like in Little Shop of Horrors, feed me, Seymour, feed me. I cannot exist and I can't be effective unless I'm open to that critique. One of the things I learned in National Board Certification, and again, it was the very first year we did it. I was one of those folks that went through it, is in a lot of states, including mine in Virginia, you were told you don't have to be evaluated for 10 years if you're nationally board certified. You don't have to go through the teacher evaluation process. So it used to be every 3 years. You were evaluated and got your rating and everything. Every one of us said, no, get in my classroom, announced or unannounced. It doesn't matter if you're coming in to evaluate me. I shouldn't be doing anything. I wouldn't be very proud for you to see it at any given moment. But it is so helpful. How can I possibly exist? The absence of parent complaint is no way to run a profession. So the idea that we on a regular basis say, come on, critique me, feed me, and love me and my students enough that you're willing to go there with me was something where I was offensive or oppressive to a subgroup within my class. And I will feel awful because I'm a conscientious person. But that's exactly what professionals do. Not I live and conduct and navigate my day in hopes people will not confront or critique my choices. So I totally agree with what you're just saying. I'm just saying we have to create that culture.
Absolutely. Hey, somebody out there, I forgot to say, someone just reminded me, hit that like button. As I always say, even if you don't like it, hit the like button anyway. That activates the algorithms. Those algorithms, man, they something else, man. It's like they control our lives, particularly as it relates to social media.
Yeah.
I make a purchase or just look at something, and now I'm bombarded with these ads on that thing. So particularly you YouTube folks, hit that like button. I'm gonna say it again. Hit that like button. I'm gonna say it again. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Facebook, Twitter, hit that like button, man. That's how them algorithms say, oh, it's something happening at that AP and New Principles Academy. So hit that like button, man. That's important. I mean, the share, the retweet, the repost, and the tags are important too. But that like button, man, them algorithms, hit that like button. Hey, hit me with a question.
We sort of alluded to it earlier on, but I don't know that I got your full answer or even there was time for you to respond. But as I mentioned before, I'm hot and heavy into the implications, practical applications, the ethics as well of generative AI. So I'm thinking race in education. And generative AI. What are the things that excite you, Principal Kafere? And what are the things that challenge you or you suggest might be cautionary when it comes to the influence or the use of generative AI in today's classrooms, particularly with students of any color or different cultural background other than white?
You know how there are people in the world and new things come on board, and some people just don't want to be a part of it yet, or circumstances force them. What's an example? I mean, just some newfangled thing. It's like, oh, here's an example because I just looked at it. My television. Everybody's got a smart TV except me. I'm still cable. And when I go to my daughter's house, I have to go through all these different platforms in order to watch a show with a password, all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm just not there. Give me my Verizon, right? So that's I'm old school. So when it comes, so I'm saying that to use it to build a bridge to your question. I'm not there yet as it relates to AI, and I don't mind admitting that publicly. There are probably others. Well, see, you guys are educators, so you're more so forced to be there than I am. But me, I'm not there, right? It's not that I'm opposed to it. I'm just not there. I
Okay.
need to get there. But let's stay here for a minute. In that context, obviously there's the bad of it that we see, right? I was watching a video the other night, and it was Kevin Durant on a
Mhm.
rant about his team. And I'm
Mhm.
like, whoa, why is he saying this publicly about his teammates?
Oh
And then
no. It
and then
was
we get to the end, and it was someone that said, I got this app at such and such place. And I'm like, that wasn't even him.
oh no.
Yeah, yeah. So then I said to myself, I said, that's why I'm not there. And I remember when I became a high school principal, MySpace was in its infancy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Before Facebook.
Mhm.
And some kid made all these pictures of me that wasn't me, right? And they were caricature type pictures. And see, with MySpace being so new, I don't know social media. I was a late bloomer to social media because I'm that guy.
Mhm.
So I'm like, man, they did this, and I don't have a way of figuring this out. But because of my relationship with the students, I found out who did it. Right? Somebody leaked it to me. Right? So I only got on social media because my students knew that I was a speaker. Right? Because every time I went out to speak, like typically on a weekend, I would be flying out somewhere on a Friday night, and I would tell them, I said, I'm going to speak such and such place. I see you Monday morning, and there's my proof right here, Dolores Wallace, right?
Hey,
Who's in the
Dolores.
court. So
Yeah.
and then on breaks and all that kind of stuff. So they knew. So then my students came to me. They knew what I did. They said, Kafele, you got to be on social media. I'm like, nah, man, you must be crazy. You got to be on. So at that time it was Facebook. You got to be on Facebook. Nah, I'm not doing that. You don't understand. You need that. They stopped me in the halls telling me I need Facebook. I'm like, I don't need that. I'm gonna be fine. No, Mr. Kafele, you need this in order for you to grow your business. Now they don't even know I'm gonna leave one day. They just know I speak. So
Well,
then
also
when
to understand their world.
yeah, they understood it. They understood the benefits of me being on social media. So then Robin Jackson, who I know you know,
Oh yeah, I love Robin.
she
Never work harder
introduced,
than your teachers and her
yeah. Well,
mind stuff. Yeah.
she came on me strong saying you got to be on Twitter. I
Yeah.
only got on Twitter because of her. Only.
Hey.
I only got on Facebook because of them kids. Now I leave and go on into the work I do now. But many of the students stay connected to me on social media. So now here they come on Facebook because they know they can reach me there. You got to get on Instagram. Hey, look, I'm not doing that, right? You got to get on Instagram. That's how you're going to grow your business. Well,
Yeah.
I listened to them initially, but I deactivated about 5 times over the years.
Yeah.
Right. I kept opening up account, deactivating. I have to start over all the time. I got one now, but it doesn't have that many followers because it's my 5th account. Right. So, but I'm saying that to say this. It takes me a while to become a believer. Right now, AI, I'm not talking about in terms of AI enhancing my life. I'm talking about AI in terms of how you just presented it to me. Things technology. It tends to take me a while before I jump on board. So I'm looking at it from a distance.
Sure.
But right now, AI to me means Allen Iverson, right? And
Oh yeah.
and at some point, maybe it'll mean artificial intelligence, and I will take advantage of it.
Well,
I was looking you up on Facebook to prepare,
yeah.
and I put in your name. And on the meta side on Facebook, and all this Rick Wormeli stuff came up, and I've done that with my name already, and so I get it, but I know you're asking about the classroom, and I'm just not in a position to.
And not to be Kimberly Crenshaw about it, but the intersection between that. you know, race and education and so on. But the other side is the leadership. For example, in Maryland, and it's a suburban area right where I live in the Washington, D.C. area, we had a faculty member create a kind of dark web or a fake AI impersonation of the principal saying some very inappropriate things. And it went out and it caused all kinds of firestorms and everything. Principal never said it.
You said impersonation.
Impersonation of it.
Yeah.
So the principal's not saying these things. He
Right.
used a generative AI to get the principal to say things because he had a bad rating and was going to be let go and it had animosity. This is a faculty member using a generative AI. It wasn't a student to put words in a principal's mouth.
Woo.
And I've seen these where people are saying racially offensive things or politically offensive things or derogatory things about the Gaza Strip for Israel or Palestine or Hamas and all these different things. And it's growing, and it's something that we're going to have to develop and really think about our response to that, both proactively. What are we going to do ahead of time to make sure people develop the maturity and the compassion and constructive humanity not to do this stuff? But interactively, we formed a strong bond relationship so they would never want to do this, and they would respect each other and how we interact with each other. But then reactively, what are we going to do when people cross the line and do this?
Yeah.
It's in the hands of children, but it's now also in the hands of adults who can use it for nefarious or oppressive purposes, or simply it's like some of the newscasters who perpetuate some racism. They say, well, it's not me doing it. I'm just asking the question, which is complete promotion. Oh no, you're actually promoting that idea, that racist idea. I think that there is room, and I'm sure there are people who've written more wisely than I could ever write, about the intersection between race, education, teaching, learning, and generative AI, and the kinds of things, not only about access to that, but about the types of prompts people ask to get it to slant a certain way. And that's what's perpetuated and taught to kids, and a variety of other things. But I just think as people who are working with leaders, we need to start really doing a deeper dive and thinking about how we might want to help others and ourselves navigate that world.
Yeah. No, it's frightening. I don't know if it can be regulated. But my wake up call was that Kevin Durant video, because I literally sat on this couch over here and I said, oh my God, he's saying this about his teammates and publicly, and it wasn't even him. Yeah. Let me throw another one at you.
Sure.
And I'm learning that I need to just read. I don't want to somebody might misconstrue me.
Right.
Black boys are disproportionately detained, retained, suspended, and expelled in America's schools. The data is clear. Let me say that again for anybody that missed me.
I totally agree.
Black boys are disproportionately detained, retained, suspended, and expelled in America's schools. The data is clear. Here's another one of them big questions for you. In your opinion, is there a systemic racial dynamic that is inherent in the educational system, or is the problem with Black males and their environment?
Oh my God. Of course it's not the Black males and their environment. Of course there's systemic bias, prejudicial stuff that's encoded into power by those currently in positions of power. There are so many factors contributing to this. It might be something, you know, as laser focused as the banking industry or fair housing practices, where we don't want that kind moving in this area. So we say something else, which means people of color wouldn't qualify for that one filter. But we're not saying non-Black. We're just saying these things. The access to proper medical care for Black women, and that living in impoverished situations that create far more asbestos, which leads to asthma, which leads to all kinds of other suppressed immune systems. And the child is dealing with that stress and other stressors, in addition to wanting to learn brand new stuff, playing the rules of a game or a game to which they don't know the rules. And they might also have a second language. And they might be going home and taking care of multiple generations in one household because of the myriad of things that are happening there. So I count me in that camp, and that well-read. Look at the research side that says, oh yes, there's an overt problem. And the problem is you might recognize it, but then choose nothing about it because you say it's not my problem. That's a problem in itself. Or you might look at it and say, well, I doubt the research, and so I don't need to listen to it. Or who's doing the research? Oh, that one person. I automatically have emotional baggage, so I'm going to discount anything they say. In other words, they're self-protecting. They're not willing to extend for a myriad of reasons. It is absolutely there. No question at all. And then the question becomes, do we do the data collection and have the heart-to-heart to actually recognize it in our community? And then do we actually overtly take steps to do something different? So am I going to go attend? This really creeps me out. Am I going to go and attend a session that at a conference, or they're going to have in-school training where they say all impoverished children respond like this? And this is all their challenges, like communal. All Black kids are like this, all Hispanic, all Japanese. That freaks me out. You're not willing to recognize the complexity within all those things and the nuance, and you are homogenizing. you're creating a homogeneous generalization about something that doesn't hold up. Yet then people operate off the tiny little pieces they hear selectively, and those become the running memes, or at least the running things that they think about. When it comes to it, it's a very simplistic look at humans. And I think until you can recognize that and do the data collection, and then the data, what does it mean for us? And then if we took action, where's our follow-up to see if it actually worked? Not just say we wrote it on paper and we have a really good plan for multiculturalism or handling Black boys who read at a lower grade level. Literally, what are we doing differently? And did it make a difference? Oh, it did make a difference. What are we going to do differently as a result? So one is that lack of repertoire, and two is lack of the data, and three, lack of the candor. But if we can put all three of those things together, I think we could begin to change it. But I think there are huge issues with institutional nature of school. Schools are institutions, and by their very nature, they want to protect the status quo. So if you represent something that is different than we normally operate, that's going to be a really hard or steep mountain to climb. And the idea, that's actually what I was built to do as a professional educator, is that this should be something that I choose to do and get excited about doing. It brings out my true colors. It lights me up, not it is a burden to carry. And imagine the white teachers going, oh no, that's just too much. I'm going to deal with it. Who says, well, then I'm going to let all the Black kids carry that burden of that stigmatizing oppression for all the time, and I'm not going to help them with that? That's just blowing it off, which comes from a place of privilege where I can say, I choose not to involve myself, because you don't have to involve yourself. No, you don't have the Black colors. You don't have to navigate the Black world, and perspective. That's really cruel. It's very abusive. It's very uninformed and unprofessional. Yeah. So are there institutional things like all kindergartners learn this, all second graders learn this, you have to have these supplies to be in sixth grade, that, and oh no, you can't go to the advanced class, you have these rudimentaries. Oh, but you have these rudimentaries if we did this with you. In other words, we will change the pathway, but you will actually get there. That's what we're built to do. We are adults who are professionals who can do more than one trick. But man, it's hard for me to stomach somebody who doesn't see the systemic and institutional policies and structures that actually are built advertently and inadvertently to keep others out, or to suppress, or to not lift all the kids up. Yeah. Go.
It's certainly systemic. I'm one, and I'm on record with it. The system as is not going to benefit the masses, to use that word again, the masses of Black and brown children, not the system as is.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And that's inclusive of the preparation for the folks that come into the school to be those teachers. It has, again, that old, worn out, played out word. It's got to be reimagined. Sometimes I feel like, the work I do, the work that folks are doing in the school, the people who really want to see change, sometimes I think we're spinning our wheels, because we're these silos who are trying to change systems. It is my hope that if someone is paying money and I'm gonna use me as the example, for me to come in and spend time with you, that it's not just that I'm there, do the presentation, and then I have no more relevance after I leave. It's my hope that my time spent is going to bring some kind of systemic, not district wide, if I'm not talking to the district, but at least within your school, that there'll be some kind of change, some kind of transformation relative to how you do your business. If not, then why am I there? To entertain you for the day, right? Hopefully there's, so to speak, a legacy that I leave there that now we can build upon. Now I've heard from many that yes, that is the case. It happened. We we went on and made the shift. Good. But those are isolated pockets. When we talk about systemic, now we're talking about an entire system. And when you look at the data, Black children, brown children are not doing well within the prevailing system. So there's got to be a restructuring. There's got to be a reimagination of what that is.
I am so with you on this, but I'm also struck. Schools have tried a lot of different things. We are conscientious people. We try stuff. And sometimes it falls apart, sometimes it doesn't work at all. But we can't do it devoid of an emphasis on getting rid of poverty and addressing poverty, because too many Black and brown children are in that world and navigate it. Not all, but a majority of them are compared to whites. There are plenty of impoverished whites, I know. But poverty has a devastating effect in learning capacity if we're not careful and we don't do it in a duality. So yes, let's do wise and wonderful things and all the powerful practices and as a leader and as a classroom practitioner, but let's also work with communities to value the ending of poverty and whatever it might be as we go through that. Because I think that we could talk till we're blue in our face and have every great innovation in the world, but it's still going to face an uphill climb, or it's going to be dismantled like that if we don't also address the poverty issue.
Yeah, the poverty issue is real, and it certainly cannot be ignored. I preach that sermon all the time, but here's my pushback.
Good.
I've noticed over my lifetime, my 63 years, but probably in terms of when I can pay attention and learn from something, probably my past 53 years or more. Poverty is real, but if I'm living in poverty and there's something within my world that I have an interest in, I'm still going to excel at it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm still going to be very good at it, despite the fact that I may be living in poverty, living amongst trauma, being hungry, etc. All this entailed with it. But here's this thing that I just happen to like. I mean, as simple as playing checkers. I'm better than everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Because I have an interest in it. Playing jacks, if girls still do that, I don't even know, right? But I know growing up, jacks and this little rubber ball, right? So whatever it is, if I have an interest. So therefore, the way I approach education, and I know that there are many contemporaries in my age group and then younger educators who also see this, but a blending of hip hop culture, where let me take curriculum and instruction and make it relevant.
Yeah.
Make it interesting. Make it something that young people would gravitate to.
Yeah.
Right. And see, for me, my default as a teacher for those 7 years, and then as a principal subsequently for most of those years, was let me take the math, the science, the language arts, the social studies. Let me put, and of course, there's so many other cores, those the big four.
Sure.
Let me put the children front and center in the lesson. Let me put them on the pages of the book. Let me position the youngsters, let me position curriculum and instruction where it becomes something real, something relevant, something tangible for, in my case, the students, Black students that I was teaching. And as a result, I was getting the results. They named me in my 4th year the school teacher of the year, the district teacher of the year, the county teacher of the year, and New Jersey State finalist teacher of the year. A lot of people ask questions, man, you're a baby in this business. How is that possible? How is that so? You just got here. And I said, very simple. What I was doing that I think was very different from what the rest of y'all were doing. Them kids were in them lessons, man.
Yeah.
They saw themselves. See, we can take math and apply it to the community, apply it to their world. Same concept, same fraction, same decimal, same multiplication, same division, but now there's application. Science, social studies, language arts, and inclusive with that. Let's say, for example, the reading. Well, in the reading, there's reading that I can identify with. There's reading that I can that is relevant to who I am. It's relatable is the word I was looking for, to who I am. So then the writing that I do that accompanies the reading is going to be relevant to who I am, which now will over time improve my writing skill because I'm writing about something that I can relate to, something that I can identify with. And we miss that part because see, poverty's real and we cannot ignore it, but it doesn't have to defeat us because we don't have to replicate or reflect the poverty that's outside of the school within the school. So poverty implies deficits. So I don't have to have deficits in the building. I could have surplus in the building, right? But I've got to have this collective mindset with all of us that we're not going to replicate poverty in the school. We're not going to be reflective of the poverty outside of the building in the building. We're going to be very prosperous. We're going to be very wealthy in terms of what it is we do in the building, right? What I love about that is it's not theory for me. It's not even research for me. It's how I live.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I know that this is doable, but it starts, and most of my work is with leadership, and it starts with the leadership. I can't have deficit thinking leaders leading a school. I can't have a leader that makes a poverty excuse. You're not needed. We already knew about the poverty before you went to grad school. You knew about it. You knew the challenges in these schools. If you took a look at the data, which I hope you did, since you made the decision you want to be a principal, you saw the correlation between poverty and student achievement, particularly of Black and brown young people. But you said, I want to be in that place anyway, because if they give me a position, I'm going to defy the odds. Well, you can't have that mindset. And now you take the position and now you come to the conclusion, oh, this poverty is real. We can't elevate these scores. We can't raise achievement levels as long as that poverty is what it is. I refuse to embrace that mindset. I will always recognize and acknowledge that the poverty is there, and that is a real thing with the children that walk through the doors of my school. But I'm going to show them, I'm going to lead the effort in showing them how to overcome it so that they can ultimately live their lives on their own terms, as I always say. And by the way, achieve at a high level while they're with us.
Oh, yeah. Well, high expectations is going to be one of the rallying cries. I would hope that no one would ever use poverty as justification for deficit thinking. Oh, they're impoverished, so they can't do.
Yeah.
But as a building leader, we have to respect that reality to remove barriers that otherwise other children don't have to address. So, for example, they don't have the money for eye care. So I find free eye care clinics. We get free glasses, folks, access to medical care. They don't have to worry about where their next meal's coming from because we're providing free breakfast, free lunch, whatever it was. I want to remove those things that are not also challenges and I want to lessen the incline of that steep hill, that the mountain they must climb, so that they have a better running chance of actually finding and fulfilling that. But I never would want a teacher to say, oh, because of poverty, this has to be less than. No, it's just something that as a building leader, I have to help navigate those obstacles to remove them while opening doors to these other things. And I'm just reminded that, in equity, it's about removing a challenge or barrier, but also providing tools and resources to avail yourself of what you're into once you're there. Not just simply saying, I open the door, so you walk through. No, I need to also facilitate that as well. So I agree with you, but I appreciate the pushback.
Yeah. No, it's only slight. It's let me I want you to throw one more at me, but let me get this one.
I just have one more left, unless you say something juicy.
Well, that'll work. Let me get this one off my chest, and then we're gonna schedule a part 3, and then I'll get to the rest of them. Right. So,
I hope people are getting out of this a lot, as much as I feel like I'm getting out of it.
From the comments, they are. It's I think people enjoying this. I've been reading them, but I'm struggling, man. As soon as we get off, I'm calling the optician like, yo, this
I am so sorry, man.
I can't even see you. I can see my notes because it's bifocus. So when I look down, I'm good. But looking up straight.
I've actually been Todd Whitaker this whole time. You haven't noticed.
Here we go. There's this culture of year-long. Maybe something Apple trying to give me something. Let me tell them I don't want it right now. Okay. There's this culture of year-long standardized assessments and test preparation in urban school districts where there are large numbers of Black and brown students that is virtually non-existent in your more affluent white districts. All right. Y'all got that out there, fam? Before I ask the question again, there's this culture of year-long standardized assessments and state standardized test preparation in urban schools districts where there are large numbers of Black and brown students that is virtually non-existent in your more affluent white districts. My question is, or statement really, talk to us about in your mind the educational implications for Black and brown children when they are in schools inundated by a culture of test preparation.
To have an entire generation of great test takers doesn't mean they're ready to participate in a civil society or pursue creative endeavor. The authors of standardized tests, state, provincial, countrywide, national tests, international tests, are the first people to tell you our scores are never to be the sole diagnostic regarding a child or regarding a teacher's impact. They're meant to be in conjunction with a myriad of other things. Standardized tests by themselves aren't a terrible thing. It's the way the data is used to be punitive or diagnostic. And I hope it would be diagnostic, not punitive.
Right.
So there is some thought, and I understand this very well, that if we don't have standards and standardized tests, we cannot be assured that all the children are learning what they need to learn. That we're just kind of selling, well, you don't have to learn all that stuff. No, we have standards, and we want to know where you are. Now, remember, there's norm reference and there's criterion reference. Norm reference is how you're doing in relation to other children around the state, the city, whatever. And sometimes that is used by political leaders who are not trained in education to grade a school and to diminish money or to reprimand the school or to do some kind of terrible penalty to the school that they don't need to have on top of that. So I find some standardized tests, okay, many, politically motivated, but not pedagogically sound. The other democracies around the world have dramatically less, if any, of these standardized tests. And yet their children are learning at higher levels with PISA and TIMSS and other things. So there is value to saying, hey, when we teach fractions, we're looking at all this stuff. When we teach the protections on the First Amendment or Bill of Rights, whatever, we're teaching these basic things. Let's make sure everybody in America has that. Hence, iCivics in 2010, when the NAEP results came out, and we realized people didn't know anything about government and democracy and everything, and Sandra Day O'Connor and many others got together and say, we need to make sure we educate people for civil discourse and to operate in a civil society. I think the standardized assessments is great. The idea, though, that so many of those tests have, to some degree, an experiential or a cultural bias, in that I'm asking the questions that are financially feasible to score, but not necessarily the best way to ask that question or the most important thing to ask. So those things that can be put on those tests aren't necessarily the wisest things that have to be represented in our education practice. And we found that people design the tests locally. Those tests and that information is used much more effectively in the classroom. But the idea of how do these kids compare to those kids there and those kids there, those kids there, must be interpreted in terms of context. But to do it blind to the context and then justify a punitive political practice or policy or legislation on top of it is reckless. It is an immaturity. It is unprofessional. It doesn't hold up under close scrutiny. And so I feel like if you're spending an entire year getting kids ready for a test, everything's about the test, you've moved away from it being about learning. It's always about the test. And you're taking away from the stuff that makes life meaningful for why I should show up at school. It is a very quick step. And sometimes it parallels it perfectly, overlays perfectly with scripted curriculum. I do this thing on this day, this week. Everybody in the whole district's doing that, which flies in the face of everything we know in human psychology and how the mind learns. It is like it's teacher-proofing the curriculum. And it's an insult and a slap in the face of every single professional educator out there. It's like, I don't bring any life experience, wisdom, training to this equation. I am just an automaton babysitter reading from a script. And they are literally told the F word. And I hate this F word. It drives me nuts. You must maintain fidelity
Oh my
to the
goodness.
curriculum. That just creeps me out. That should be Twilight Zone, dystopia, science fiction when that happens. But I'm going to tell every supervisor, and I'll probably never be invited to any school after saying this, don't you ever make me do that slap in the face and treat me like that. I reserve the right, and there should be in every pacing guide, in every guide, there should be a way for me to deviate from that so that I can maximize the learning over that which otherwise could be achieved. If we all agree we're going to read this one novel, and I find this novel will not have resonance with a group of my students or one student, I should be allowed to change that novel without suffering from the stare of death from the department chair or grade level team captain, but I must have an instructional pedagogical rationale. I can teach another novel in the same genre, hook the same standards, and that kid will light up. So I am not, as I mentioned last time, I'm not about sense making, I am about meaning making. And I know you ran with that too, that connective tissue that puts it in fire. And now they go, oh, it's like the aha mini epiphany when I do that. But I reserve that professional autonomy to make those choices, as long as they're, again, structurally sound, not just whimsy, or I'm in a bad mood that day. So when I see a whole school dedicating itself to a standardized test, they have missed the point. Now, if they're saying, well, for standardized test scores, we get extra money, I get it. You have to choose survival. And that's really awful that you have to do that. But I question any politician or legislator or district who would ever set policy that everything is in an effort and pep rallies for standardized test scores. I know you want to build excitement, but could we study what we know about executive function, tenacity, and perseverance? None of that says do those pep rallies for the test or use punitive grading. We actually know how to instill and cultivate a sense of agency and efficacy in kids. And it's not pep rallies, and it's not doing well and getting a pizza party and test scores or whatever it is. So we need to kind of provide those tools. Otherwise, teachers and principals will always choose the things that actually undermine their great maturation effort. I'll stop there.
You know, though, you said pep rallies, and that triggered something in me.
Yeah.
I'm not a proponent of those pep rallies for standardized assessment.
I'm not either.
I'm just trying to think back. Did I ever do one? I don't recall doing one. See what I did. I brought them together. This is me as a principal now. I brought them together Probably the day before. I think I did have one because someone outside of me was really insistent, who was a musician. I think that's the only time I did that
But
in my
it was an
first year of high
inspirational
school.
message time, though.
Yeah, but see see for me, I don't need all that glitz and cheerleaders and all that kind of stuff. Just give me these give me my students and give me me, and let me just talk to you. But where my real message came through was on the day of the test. I refuse to, and this is throughout my years as a principal, I refuse to allow the students to go from street to testing center. Because see, as a leader,
Mhm.
I have positioned myself in their lives that I'm in this with you all. I don't think there's a student that I ever had that would push back on that. I've positioned myself as leader. Whatever you all are doing, I'm in there with you, right? So on test day, I bring them up to the cafeteria, right, or the gym, whatever, and I have this very calm message. Not no, all right, we gonna do this. All right, let's go. No, I don't want you walking in that room like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so sometimes they'll have that test, that pep, little hype talk before the test. No, when I brought them to that cafeteria or to that gym, depending on the size of the group that's taking the test, I'm talking to them. Look, I want you all focused now. Whatever's going on in your mind, leave it somewhere. Right now, let's lock in. But I'm
Yeah, that
talking
seems
like this.
very wise.
It's like I need a mic right now because I'm talking so low, right? So I want y'all bring it down. Just bring it down. Bring the room to absolute silence. Just bring it down. Now let's be quiet for a minute. Let's just focus. No words. And then I'll just shut up and we hear.
That's awesome.
All right, y'all. Let's go out here. Let's take care of business based on everything you got this year. Let's go. Leave quietly.
Yeah.
That's how we did that, man. I mean, what's how that going to improve the outcome? Like you could solve the problem better now?
Well, we
the
have
cheerleaders
anxiety, panic disorder, all kinds of stuff happening these days. You are very wise to do that.
Yeah, that's how we did in here. Here go one of my teachers again.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't tell her to come on here. She know Miss
Oh,
Mayla.
no, you called her last night. Sit in with us.
Yeah, man, that's a fam out there. I'm speaking for Kafele. I ain't trying to tell you how to get your students ready for the test, but I'm telling you, this worked for me. Because again, let's not lose sight of the fact that my kids are not coming from all these privileged communities now, right? My kids are not coming in here with the mindset that, oh man, I got to knock this test. I mean, at the end of the day, this test doesn't mean a whole lot to them, right? It's us that are losing sleep over this test. They're not losing sleep over the New Jersey state or the whatever state you're in standardized assessment. They're not losing sleep over that, right? Unless you have tricked them into thinking that test is going to make a difference in their lives, right? So so therefore it's us. So I'm going to use what's going to work in order for them to be successful, right? So for me to settle them down, that's going to increase the probability for their success as opposed to me getting them hyped up and now they walk into that class wired up. And now you think they're going to take this complicated questioning and knock it out the park. You got them up here now. I'm going to bring them down here, not to go to sleep, but so that they settle and ready to give their all.
I think you're creating a sense of confidence rather than
Yeah.
I'm hyped up and excited about it. The goal is the confidence in doing that. I do have the wherewithal. I don't have to panic, and that's great. And Principal Kafele has my back. I'm still going to be a good person. My value isn't just related with my test score. I am infinitely more than my test score or my grades. And you have assured them of that, that they're accepted in their entirety without the anxiety of, oh, I have to perform at the same high level.
Yeah, that's it. Now, I'll say this one last thing, and y'all, and to the fam out there, I know we approaching 3 hours like I did last week, but we getting ready to sign off in a minute. But the numbers keep increasing. because it's thousands that been on here, but in terms of the real, we got 402 real-time people on here right now who are just in it for the long haul. That's not including the ones that are in and out. So that means y'all rocking heavy. But you know, I was gonna say something to you, but I don't remember what it was. So now I don't need to say it. It was something about that standardized assessment. I know what it was. Here it is. For whatever the reason, y'all, everybody's not going to do this. I'm not going to try to sell this on anybody. I'm just going to tell you this is the way I roll. Every student in my building had my cell phone number, and I don't mean my work phone. I mean this one right here, right? Because I've only had one number since my first cell phone in 1998. So every student in the building had my number, and not once did anyone abuse it. That's at the high school level. No one abused it. I just felt if you get yourself jammed up, or if you need me, if you need to ask me something, whatever it is, I want to be accessible. I made that decision, right? So they all had the number, and they only used it one time a year. And let me tell you what time that was, folks, because this might be instructive for somebody. The students, I would always tell the students when the test scores came in. And they would, in New Jersey, they would come in midnight going into the next day. That's I don't know how they do it now in Jersey, but back when I was a principal, if it was June the 10th, because they always came in June, because we go to June in Jersey. We go September to June. So let's say June 10th. So the morning of June 11th midnight, the test scores would just pop up. They're there. Right? You go on the New Jersey website, Department of Education website, they're there. So my students knew. I kid you not, Dolores Wallace, if you're still here, you know about this. From midnight to 5 a.m., I'm getting text messages. No one was calling me. Midnight to 5. They just want to know, did I pass? Right? They're not asking for no specificity. But from midnight to I don't go to sleep. So when I get to school for them 6 years I was at North Tech, when I get to school, I'm tired because I'm up crunching the numbers. They're texting, asking did they pass the language arts and math portion. So by the time I get to school, I would say 3/4 of the school already know. So the excitement's not going to be what I would want it to be. Right? Because I want to get on there and say, yo, we hit that benchmark. Now we can have a celebration, right? But they know they meeting me at the front entrance, like hugging me. I did it, right? So
wow.
There go Miss Wallace right here. Let me see what she said, because I can't see Miss Wallace. I gotta look out the bifocal.
Yeah.
We came to school ready to
celebration is good.
Yeah. So that's what it was, man. That's how we did that. I'm having flashbacks, man, memories. I haven't thought about this in a long time, but that's what it was, folks. So that's where our celebration. We celebrating victory, but I'm not celebrating beforehand. I'm just not doing it, man. Miss Maylock said, I got all these former folks on here. You help ESL students go from 0 passing standardized to 100%.
Whoa.
Same thing for the African-American student, because she's one of my ESL students, man. We taking care of business, man. So, so hey, I'm gonna say this last thing. Throw that last question at me, but this last thing, I'm glad, folks, to the fam out there, I'm just so glad. I feel elated that I'm not someone on this platform for 213 weeks throwing theory at you, man.
Yeah.
I walked this, y'all. I lived this. I was in those schools like Rick. I was in them. So I have receipts.
Yeah.
I got a track record. I got a resume. And then I got folks that were on the team who show up on the thread that could verify. They could come on the thread and say, you lying, Kafele, you a fraud. But you got folks, and the students come on here too. In fact, you recall about 2 months ago, I had one of the former students as my guest.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So she's a teacher now. So well, she's she was a teacher, now she's a consultant, but she was on and others are gonna be on. So yeah, man, I'm just reminding the fam, especially if there's any new people on here, like, who is this guy Kafele? And did he ever do anything worthy of note? Hey Rick, throw me that last question.
Well, we can just make this something to put on people's radar. It doesn't need you if you want to respond, it's fine.
Yeah,
But
don't ask me no AI questions now.
Yeah, right. Valerie's saying you walked it, you sat in that seat.
Sat in that seat.
I forgot if we talked about this last time. I just want to remind people of it, even if we did last time, or if it's brand new. The Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment. We have to be mindful. Well, amendments 13, 14, and 15, but the 14th Amendment requiring that states establish a public school system and that no child living in that state may be denied equal access to schooling, prohibiting any state from denying any person within its jurisdictions the equal protection under the law.
Yeah. And
I find, as I study school law, and I took 4 classes in that and keep up with it, and I wrote an article or 3 about that many schools are in violation of some of that to some degree or another.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just wondering, if I were to do a question, but I can just leave it hanging in the air for people listening, we can talk next time if you want. Where are we today with the functional effect of the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause? And if we are adrift, what needs to change in order to live up to the promise and the technical interpretation of the 14th Amendment, its spirit and intent? I think that if people are talking about, we follow the Constitution and we want democracy, they really have to read those 3 amendments, but in particular the Equal Protection Clause when it comes to schooling. And I think that some people don't sit down and talk about that. It's for others to talk about. And I think the everyday citizen educator should be well-versed and should be actionable in its implementation.
Yeah. I mean, but you're speaking to Brown versus Board of Education.
Yeah.
And I think, as we've been saying all along, there's a lot of work to do. I mean, clearly, I'm going to use that word masses one more time. This system as it exists now is not working for Black children, Black and brown children. It is not working. Right now, I know that people will blame the parents and the community and the this and the that. Right. But as I always remind folks, these parents that you're blaming are products of the same system. Right. So how you going to hold them accountable when they are the products of this thing that you're criticizing? Right. So that's why it was always so important that we came up with strategy and solution to bring parents into the building. Right. And Dolores Wallace, the one I keep putting on the screen, was the parent coordinator. Right. So when we can bring parents into the building, we can educate parents. Right. Because they're products of the same stuff, as one would say, the same mess, the same crap. Right. So I can't now point my finger at them. You're not doing your job the way you could be doing it as an educator because you've been victimized by it. Right. So instead, I want to bring them in to enlighten them. I want to bring them in to educate them. But right now, when we talk about the 14th Amendment, we're not in a good space. And I that's why I wake up every day and do the work that I do. And that's why you wake up every day and do the work that you do. I miss being in the buildings. I really do. There's a part of me that wakes up in the morning probably every day because I literally dream. I've said this on this platform before, but I'm gonna say it again. I dream about being a principal 7 days a week. It's a rare night. It's an anomaly when I don't have a dream about leading a school. This thing is in me. Maybe it's because I use the name Principal Kafele. That may contribute to it because I'm hearing it every day. I'm seeing it every day. When I go on Facebook, I'm seeing it. Twitter, all them social media platforms, I'm seeing the word principal attached to my name. So that could be contributing to it. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, I'm dreaming about being a principal. So I wake up Like, man, I want to get back into school, right? But I also love what I do, inclusive of the fact that I see as a principal, I was answering to multiple different supervisors, right? Multiple different bosses.
Yeah.
Well, for the past 13 years, the only boss I answer to is named Kimberly Kafele, right? So outside, that's the wife, right? So outside of that, I don't have a boss. You know, the client, one could say, is a boss to, you know, so you know, they're the one that hiring me, so I'm expected to do my job. But I don't have, you know, that superintendent, that assistant superintendent, you know, calling me and asking me this and that. And, you know, I don't have those demands, those pressures anymore. So I got used to that life. But there's you know, different districts in Jersey have asked me to be superintendent as recent as 3 weeks ago, right? So different districts in this state. Come on, Kafele, we need you. But that means that if you got a 7-member board, I got to answer. Oh, my wife heard me. She on here. So if I got a 7-member board, then I got to answer to them 7 people every day.
Yeah.
Then I got to answer to the community. They're the boss. Then I got to answer to the parents. They're the boss. So it's a lot of bosses, man. And I'm like, I ain't used to that no more. I'm used to going into my mirror and seeing that guy looking back at me. And I say to him, hey, boss, let's have the best day ever. That's my ritual, right? So I'm used to that now. But you never know. One day I might shock all the fam out there, and you see me make some big announcement on social media. I am the new principal of such and such school. I'm
You
gonna
got to
say
feed
this,
your soul.
huh?
You got to feed your soul.
Yeah, well, that's it. But speaking of soul, then let me say this last thing, because y'all say, man, y'all been on here since 10:55. Now let me say this one more thing about that. I have a dream. Like Dr. King said, I have a dream. I've got this dream, Rick, that you know how you know the work I do with assistant principals. You know better than most.
Yeah.
It's, you know, all these books, this academy.
I'm hoping one day if we get a prayer group and a GoFundMe, you might go to 75 instead of keeping it 50. You could do it.
Yeah. Well, I've got this dream of being a principal of a school with a good amount of APs, like at least 3, if not more, where I'm obviously in there for the children, obviously. However, and this is a big however, capital letters, bold font, underscored and italicized. However, my dream is going into a school, going hard on training up those APs, getting them ready, and then they leave. And then I hire 3 or 4 more new ones. And I train them up, get them ready, coach them up, and they leave and they become principals. And then I bring in another set. And it's like, you know, it's like with coaching in athletics. You know, I know I never did it before, but I know that them head coaches that see their assistant coaches are now coaching at a high level.
Yeah.
That's gotta mean something big. There's gotta be a lot of pride in that. You know, I have several former assistant principals who are principals now, but now I feel like I want to live that, right? So you never know, especially like one of my former principals is still when I was in middle school. One of my principal when I was in middle school, I should say, is still a principal. He's 85.
Wow.
He was Whitney Houston's principal after me. I'm older than her. So later on he became her principal in East Orange, New Jersey. And the school is now called the Whitney Houston Academy. It was named after her. So, but he's 85. He was supposed to be on here April 4th, I think it was, and something came up and he had to back out. So now we got to schedule him later. But here's the thing. I know what he's doing with those assistant principals. That's the point that I'm raising here. He's training them assistant principals, and they're doing their thing, and they're getting that them 85 years of wisdom and experience from this guy.
Yeah.
He's still getting it done. Henry Hamilton at 85 years old. I can see myself in that light. I could see myself in my 70s and 80s going back to it, but relying on the training of those APs, because I'm not going to be 35-year-old Principal Kafele, 45-year-old Principal Kafele. I'm going to be much older, but I could see myself in a school training up them APs, but I'm still in my element as a principal. So I know my wife's on right now, so I'll say to Kim through this platform, don't be surprised one day that
She has to put up with that. Oh no.
that I hang up this public speaking and I'm back in some school as the principal. But I'm not going to be in a school where it's just one AP. It got to be at least 3, man, because I want to train them up and get them ready. Right, let me see if my wife, here she go. Oh boy.
Get ready. At least he would be home most nights.
That's every night.
Well, I know there are a lot of evening activities,
but I'll still be home to sleep, so.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. I'm like Kanye. I'm acting like it's just me and you. We on television. I'm acting like it's just me and you. I'm not going to ask you the impact questions because we did them already. So I'm just going to close out by saying to you, Rick, I love this.
Me too. It was an honor.
Yeah, likewise. I love this. This was a great conversation. Hey, folks, hey, fam out there, those of you who are veterans, you know how we applaud the guests. So if you like this, if you loved it, if it resonated, if you got something out of it, if you just enjoyed it, give us some emojis. Give us your favorite emojis. Give us a lot of them. Let us know. I see them coming now. Let us know. And while you're doing that, I'll say to you, Rick, appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on, spending 3 hours with me. And it's almost 2:00. Spending 3 hours with me on a Saturday. And just good stuff. Let me get my emoji. I'm wearing this is my pitcher's jersey. This is Bob Gibson, St. Louis Cardinals, the legend. But we'll make them a batter today, and you certainly hit it out the park. Bam, grand slam. You came to bat 4 times, hit it out every time. Bases were loaded, so you did the thing, as they say.
Well, it was easy with your pitching.
I appreciate it.
Good.
Yeah, so I'll be in touch. We'll get that part 3 going at some point, And I'm all booked. I'm booked up until next April, but we'll get it in there
down the road. Yeah, it's fine. Well, thank you for elevating me too. I feel like I'm a better person each time I'm with you. So
likewise,
you're magic, man. Thank you so much.
Likewise, you challenged me on the AI. I gotta step up my game and I'm gonna do that. We got my buddy on here, man. My partner in the business. This is Tammy Moy Johnson. She but when I do my institute every year in the summer in July, it's actually coming from her business. So It's her business, Right Decisions, and I'm just the speaker. But it's her business, Right Decisions. So that's my partner with the School Leadership Institute. In fact, I'll tell all of you, that's, with the School Leadership Institute, July 9 and 10, Houston, Texas. Go to principalkafele.com, scroll down to the announcements, click the link and register. The business is Right Decisions. That's Tammy Moy Johnson you see on the page. I'm just the speaker that comes in and I come in and do this. I come in and hit grand slams all day, but the business is Right Decision, right? So that's good stuff. Hey, so Rick, thank you for everything, and let me go through my rundown right quick. How did the folks get in touch with you, man? How could I forget?
Easy ways to do that. On Twitter, it's just my full name, Rick Wormeli, and add a 2. So Rick Wormeli 2. Then the website, rickwormeli.com. You can email me from there. But if you want the actual email, it's Rick@Wormeli, like it's one word, dot on Microsoft, like it's one word, on Microsoft.com.
Got that, folks? And if not, rewind the video. And then how do they get your books? Can they go to Amazon or?
Oh yeah, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere. Just type in Rick Wormeli, it'll come up. There are articles online too. On my website, all the new podcasts, articles, videos, things I do are all gathered there, plus all of my books. So you can always go to the website. But if you just want to go to Amazon or ASCD or Stenhouse, my publishers, feel free to just order direct.
I want to get we're closing, but fam, let me get controversial real quick. We'll do this real quick. Briefly. Stay here, fam. I want to do this. My soul is saying, go ahead and do this. Rick, are your books? You said Barnes and Noble. Are your books on the shelves or just the website?
Oh, just the website. Once in a while, if I've been a presenter, they might have ordered a few extra books, but they're not. I mean, the summarization book more often than others is there, but it's very rare that's on the website. Usually, on the shelf itself. Usually, it's just on the website.
That takes the sting out of my controversy then.
Oh,
but I'll put it out there anyway. Barnes and Noble sells all of my books on their website. I got so much light on me on my website. However, they will not or do not sell my books in their stores. Now, because I've made that extremely public, every now and then someone will hit me up with an email and say, or they'll even have a picture and say, I got your book at Barnes and Noble, and here's the picture of it on the shelf. And
I've seen your books occasionally at Barnes and Noble too.
I'm yet to see them. I've never had the joy of walking in a Barnes and Noble because as my wife could attest, sometime when we're out of state, I'll see a Barnes and Noble and I'll say, let's go in there for the sole purpose of seeing if my book is in that education section on the shelf.
Yeah.
And it's not. So I call them and like, why won't you carry my books on the shelf? Well, there's no one coming in here asking for them. So you mean to tell me of the thousands of books in this store, there's someone coming in asking for them, all of them? They can't stumble on a book and see the title and see, oh, this is something I think I can benefit from. Right. So,
I do find that Barnes and Noble education sections are shrinking.
Oh yeah, it's
the new ones that I visit as I travel around have much smaller sections. Education books, maybe people are just buying more of them online. I don't know, and they don't feel the need to have them physically present. But for the very reason you just cited, they should have them present because they otherwise might not see them. And it's unfortunate, but it's independent bookstores that might carry it more. Rather than Barnes and Noble.
I'm like, man, I got 7 ASCD bestsellers. Right. I've written, how many have I written for them now? 9 that are published. I have a manuscript that I didn't submit, and I got the new one that I haven't submitted yet. But of those 7 best-selling ASCD books, and Barnes and Noble won't put them on the shelf. Right. So we'll leave that right there. Anyway, next week, y'all, stay with me for the rundown, and then we'll talk offline. Next week is week number 214. And my guest is literally right here. Let me put her right here. She's right here, Dr. Dr. Rachel Edowecki. Do you know her?
No, but I somehow I've come across her name. I'm curious what she's going to talk about.
Her name has been blowing up lately.
Yeah, right? Okay.
She did a keynote at the ASCD closing session, general
session.
Oh,
maybe that was it.
Yeah. She's blowing up, right, Rachel? So that's Dr. Rachel Edowecki, and she'll be with us next week. She's the author. I don't have the book. I got it in my bag to make sure I don't forget it when I go to Aruba tomorrow. So, but she's the author of The Principal's Journey. So that'll be part 2, by the way, for those of you that saw her with me last time. The last time she was with me, I had to record it because I was going on vacation or something, and I didn't want to take a chance on a cruise ship Wi-Fi. But this, or whatever I was doing, but we're going to be live this week. But I'll be in Aruba, but we're going to be live. So make sure you tune in to myself and Dr. Rachel Edowecki as we're going to have a good conversation. Then next Saturday, 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt, Facebook Live, followed by Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor. And then myself at 10:55, we call that Super Saturday, right? And then Sunday, y'all got to help me understand what that new name is for Josh. On Sunday, it's at 5 o'clock Eastern time. But whatever it is, we'll be tuned in, right? But that's Josh Tovar, and he's got a co-host now, Dr. Moreno. But Josh, send me a comprehensive text message so that I know what I need to be saying on here, right? But I do know it's 5 o'clock Eastern time, and I guess I don't even know if it's on your MPA Jaguar or your Josh Tovar page. Give me all that information. But that's Sunday at 5 o'clock Eastern time, 4 Central. I told you about the School Leadership Institute, so I don't need to be repetitive on that, but also the ROC Conference. I'm part of that board. So the ROC Conference, Black Educators ROC, July 18th to 21, because that's not the only conference I'm speaking. You know, I'll be at the United Conference with NAESP, SSP on whatever that date is. That's Sunday. I'm doing a pre-conference session, and then that Monday I'm going to be doing a regular breakout session. And go to my website and see my summer conference schedule, right? Just scroll down to the announcements and you'll see all the places I'm speaking publicly as opposed to the in-service stuff that I do with school districts. Like and follow the AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. Subscribe to the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel. We got like 21,100 something subscribers. I think it's close to 200 now, so 21,000.
Wow, that's impressive.
Oh, I'm blessed with that, man. The folks have blessed me. That's a whole lot of people, man. That's a whole lot of people. 21,100. And then make sure that you visit the website. And finally, as I always say, your diet. Take care of yourself. Eat right, y'all. Do I eat certain things I shouldn't eat in moderation? Yeah, I do. You know, moderate. Doctor said just as long as it's moderation, not habitual. So I do. Get your exercise in. I've been getting them 3 miles in, y'all. Make sure you get the miles in and whatever other exercise that you do. And then all those virus precautions, you know, just make sure you're taking care of yourself when you're in those tight situations where people are not well and all that kind of thing. Just do the right thing. And other than that, to the fam out there and the first timers, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here as always. Glad you're here. Glad you spent 3 hours. Those of you that have been rocking since the beginning. And I see some names of people who were with me from the beginning. So thank you for that. And when Dr. Rachel Edoweket and I, we're not going 3 hours next week. We're going because I'm gonna be in Aruba anyway. We ain't going 3 hours, right? But we're gonna get in a solid 90 minutes to 2 hours for sure, right? So make sure that you tune in. Other than that, folks, I see you next week. Let me clear my screen so I can see all of you. Here we go. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. 1, 2, 3. Bam! I see y'all next week. But before I see you next week, I'm getting ready to call the optician and let them know these ain't working. I can't see myself right now. We're getting ready to fix that. All right, y'all. Peace.